You know those movement watches I'm always talking about? Well, now they're making sunglasses. And I know what you're saying at home. Greg, that deal's gotta be so bright, you gotta wear shades. They let me write this one too. Don't mess around with the Greg in shades, oh no. Movement sunglasses start at just $70 with the option to upgrade to polarized lenses. Those overpriced designer brands will run you in upwards of $200. Movement figured out that by selling online, they were able to cut out the middleman and retailer markup, providing the best possible price. If you've ever watched a Kinda Funny barbecue, you know I do wear these. I do like them. They are good. I'm wearing them on my face right now. Look me in the eyes and tell me if I'm lying. You can't because of the sunglasses. That's why you get sunglasses. You can lie to anybody you want. Get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to movement.com/Greggy. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of the Game Over Greggy Show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer slash seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hi, Greg.
You didn't flex for me.
I'm sorry, your hands are really cold.
Do it. I know. They always are. Oh, there it is. The ice cream scoops themselves.
I haven't lifted in a while.
Why not? What is wrong?
I don't know. Kinda Funny Live 3.
Yeah, okay, that's a good excuse. That's a real good excuse.
In the stomach in a great way.
Got everybody in the stomach, I think.
That's fantastic.
Some of us in the nuts. Over here, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host.
How are you holding up after Kinda Funny Live 3?
I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm alive, which is good. I'm very happy with how the show turned out.
Sure.
I'm still very tired. More tired than I've ever been before. Usually one night of sleep will get me back. It's not. I'm like yawning during lunch and stuff. It's a disaster. Yeah, but I'm super excited for E3.
Yeah, it's right
coming
around the
up.
corner. Yeah.
Not even next week.
By the time you're watching this, E3's happening.
In 2 days.
Yeah.
So hyped.
Yeah, no.
We'll know what happens with Crash Bandicoot. What is the special announcement?
It's not. Why are you even getting remotely excited for this?
Because Year Dreams 1, Year Dreams 2. Need I remind you, Greg?
They didn't leak ahead of time. Hey, we're gonna have some cool announcements about. Is a Crash Bandicoot announcement? It's gonna be some garbage.
Collector's edition.
It's gonna be like if you buy it, you get a theme. That's what it's gonna be.
It's not gonna be that.
It's gonna get a PlayStation 4
They already
theme.
announced that.
Smash the dunce.
Dumbass.
Smash the dust, indeed. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 3 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic discussion for your amusement. I went really fast in that one.
Yeah. No, like, you got me though. You threw me with a 3, and I was like, whoa. And then I heard this table, and I was like, just let gravity do its work.
Boom, boom. Yeah.
If you like that, you can head over to patreon.com/kindafunny. Toss us a few bucks and get each and every episode early, along with a bunch of exclusive perks, goodies, and more. We're actually going to talk in this show about how Patreon is going to change to benefit you more even.
Starting next week, if you're watching this
Starting next week, right. Yeah, that sounds about right. That checks out. But if you don't want to toss us any bucks, no big deal. You can head over to youtube.com/kindafunny. Get the show topic by topic, day by day, until it posts one big MP3 and video the following Friday. Now, I said it's a very special episode. Yes. I got right to the rigmarole. There's only the 3 of us because we're here to chat with you, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. This is the Game Over Greggy Show, talking about everything we announced at Kinda Funny Live 3, but more importantly, what Kinda Funny is. What Kinda Funny is going forward, who we are, and how this all works.
And how that relates
to you. Thanks for joining us on that one, Nick. Real showing some solidarity here.
He's done.
You're on your own with that.
Damn, what? One more time. How it relates to you. Nailed it. Thank you, Kev. Thank you. Obviously, it's been a fucking year here at Kinda Funny, hasn't it?
It has indeed.
2017.
We're halfway through.
Yeah, it feels like.
Isn't that weird?
We've been here. It's been like 3 years condensed into one.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah, when I sit there like on the morning show, I try to say June, and it feels so much further than that. Yet it still feels like it's May and all these different things, and how tight a month of May was with things that were happening in it.
The weird thing to me is, I'm actually for the first time probably ever in my life looking forward to E3.
Why?
Which is, I don't know. It just feels like I
don't get me wrong. It's gonna be great.
I feel like I've won, Nick.
No, I
feel like I've gotten your head. I've guilt tripped you enough.
It was not about guilt trip.
Of you being a punk ass motherfucker about E3 for so long.
I think it's just the lesser of the two evils. When you contrast the work that we're going to put into E3, which you've put in most of it for playing and things like that, with the sheer Herculean effort that was Kinda Funny Live 3.
Yeah,
it's just like. Whatever, man. Like,
it's one of those things.
I feel great. It was a great show.
With all due respect to
E3 will be what it is.
E3 and the behemoth it is. E3 is a known quantity. You look at the E3 schedule and you're like, all right, we're streaming. They've spread the streams out, which a lot of people are annoyed about because they have to go to LA earlier. We're just streaming from home.
Yeah.
So like I got to come in.
Be awesome.
I get to come in. I get to be well rested. Do an EA thing, go home. Next day, do two more, do one more, fly to LA. I've blown all of Tuesday. Then it's Wednesday, go see some games, do the GameSpot live stream, go to bed. We'll party, but go to bed. Then eventually Thursday, wake up, see some more games. Go. I know where I'm going to be. I know what I need to do. I know who's doing what. I've planned lunch breaks for you people.
It's great. Well, that's the other thing too. Is right. We're as a group as kind of funny, and not IGN as kind of funny. Like we figured out how to do E3 a little bit more efficiently, which I think is cool. That gives me less anxiety. And B, we've got a bigger team.
Sure.
So we've got more people, more hands to help, more defined roles, which is good, which means that I can just kind of, my scope of work for the show is a lot more defined, which again helps with my just like feeling of dread going into it. So now I'm like, I look at what I'm going to do and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I've got space for the occasional crazy thing that pops up or whatever, but that doesn't give me anxiety. That just makes me excited.
Yeah,
you know.
And plus, how I think it's the fact that even though E3 will be tough and long and there'll be lots to do, it'll not be nearly as hard as Kind of Funny Live 3 was leading up to that.
Well, it'll be it'll be challenging, but it won't be the sheer
challenge
amount of work that goes into it.
I'm failing to see the challenge.
No, I have him riding a VR bike game, so yeah, he's gonna.
Remember the last time you and I rode bikes together?
I do remember that.
That was fucking terrible.
Not fun.
Yeah, so just think about that.
My back still hurts
sore for that. Yeah,
also, for why you're excited about E3C. We're staying in a vampire mansion.
We are.
But back to B,
I like
you bring up.
Saying it's a vampire. It's clearly a BDSM home. Like we're clearly gonna just get. We'll get.
I can't wait for Andy to be like, "What's this stain on this couch?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it.
Get on
just
the sex
sleep on
one.
it.
Let's
just
go.
sleep on it. Put on the eyes wide shut masks and go bed. Get excited.
What is the password? Fidelio. That's the password for the outside.
Did you ever watch? Did you ever watch Eyes Wide Shut? Me neither.
For the inside. Fidelio. It was a weird movie.
I'm sure it was.
That's why it was a great weird movie.
Yeah.
It was a weird
movie.
Was
that Kubrick's last film?
No. I want to say Kubrick's last film was, I want to say it was AI. He was working on AI, and then Steven Spielberg stepped in.
That sounds right.
But it could be
Anyways, back to B. You mentioned the bigger team. That's something we need to talk about. We need to talk about the new shows. We need to talk about where Kind of Funny is. We talked about this Kind of Funny Live. We put up the announcement video. This is more a chance to get into the weeds, talk you through it, and talk about where we've come and where we're going and all that different stuff.
And why.
And why the changes.
What, where, and why.
Why. Kind of Funny Live 3 was awesome.
It was. Congrats, everyone. It was a great show.
No, congrats to you guys both. Good job, Tim, planning it.
It was fun.
I know we're going to talk about it in depth and all that stuff eventually, but it was something I needed. It was something we all needed, but I can only speak for myself. I know you tweeted about this too, is that we needed that stark reminder of who we are and who the audience is, who the best friends are. And so getting to hang out with so many of you was amazing, to be reunited, to have that feeling, to have you talk to us, to tell you how much you love it. But then not even for the folks that just weren't in that room, the people who then on the Twitter, on Reddit, on whatever, forums, come together and talk about how great this is and how they're looking forward to it and what the changes were when we announced them, how excited people were about that. That was important. This is both of us now, or three of us, but both of you being here with me, a chance to talk about the announcements we made, but also reflect on everything that's happened. And like I did that town hall YouTube thing, which was an unlisted link I put out live to talk to the people in the forums, in Reddit, in Discord, in Facebook. Basically the hardest of the hardcore, the kids who are mods, the kids who are swept up in this stuff, that are living it day to day and wanting to be a part of those communities. I wanted to talk to you because things had gotten bad. You know what I mean? They'd gotten off track, and talking to them, it sounded like their biggest complaint was, in general, that we were being quiet to them. We weren't talking back to them as much, which is rough, of course, because for me, my interaction has always started with, I talk to you through the podcast, I talk to you through the video games, I talk to you through, the content I produce is me starting the conversation. But then, usually you do follow up on Twitter, or I'll pop into something, or I'll do that. When all the stuff with Colin happened, when him leaving this is what I talked about in the thread, right? Him leaving, I felt, kicked up this cloud of negativity, which we expected. I remember when we said goodbye to Colin and he's like, I'll see you guys later. I'm like, yeah. And, I'm like, I know you're going to be successful. He's like, I know you guys are going to be fine too. I'm like, I know that. Right now, though, we got to batten down the hatches. And to an extent, so did he. And I can't speak for what he saw, but like in terms of people being upset, understandably so. And I don't mean upset like, oh, I'm gonna miss Colin, being mad, having anger, having emotions, and not knowing where to go with them. You guys lost a best friend just like we did. That's very understood. We understand that, you know what I mean? We lost our brother in arms. You lost this guy you like to hang out with every day. And so when that happened, it kicked up this cloud of negativity that for me personally, as I dealt with my own stuff, as I dealt with getting married, as I dealt with all this stuff, I had to step back and be like, okay, I can't engage the way I normally do, which is answering every tweet. I want to be on the Reddit threads. I'm trying to help out wherever I can. And so by the time we came back, it had settled down, but then we had people in the community upset that normally wouldn't be upset. They were upset because we weren't there to talk to them. And that is something I didn't think about. I think I personally stayed away too long, if that makes sense. But it's what I needed for my own emotional landscape. And I think that when I talked about it in the town hall, people understood that, but it was another thing of like, how would they know that without me talking about it, right? So I had gotten that, town hall happened, I had talked to a whole bunch of different people, and then we got to Kinda Funny Live. And the thing coming into Kinda Funny Live and the thing happening at town hall were the people saying like, I don't feel like you're hearing us. You know what I mean? It's simple stuff. It's also top level stuff about shows and all these different things. And P.S. I Love You, XOXO, or the Gamescast and stuff like that. And, you know, we've talked about it before. You've put it well before of like, we heard that, we knew that, and it wasn't like we were just holding off on announcements until Kinda Funny Live, right?
Never.
Yeah.
I mean, that absolutely. Like that's the thing is I know how big of a fan I am of hype, and I know that you know that, and I know that a lot of my persona is built around that.
Hell yeah.
But there's a difference between the business of announcements and stuff and the fun of the hype. There was not a single thing besides us hiring Cool Greg that was held until Kinda Funny Live for the hype of it. Cool Greg had been, you know, came on a couple months ago.
Cool Greg started, February 14th was his first day.
And he just been helping out a lot in the background. And we were like, you know what, let's wait and officially announce it there just because it'll be fun with all the people that made it happen. And we want them to know that this is a direct response to this thing happening. But when it came to all the announcements of the shows, the whole please wait till Kinda Funny Live hit meme status. And I totally understand that there's a lot of people that felt like we were holding off on making announcements, and they couldn't understand how we could do that when we were bleeding out and there was all these issues happening, that we would wait until Kinda Funny Live to announce the new shows that we're doing, when in reality we needed that time to get those shows together, whether it's talking to Danny and Andrea and figuring out if they can, like how they could work with us, or getting graphics packages made and music made, or recording Let's Plays for Party Mode, or
for me figure out what I wanted to do with PS I Love You XOXO, right? Because that was a real internal debate and a conversation with you guys, and it was, I took all the feedback I asked for from you guys about what to do with that show, and it was that there weren't simple answers. And you know, I think we talked about it so much when we first left. We were exchanging the reach of IGN for the intimacy of Kinda Funny. And I know people had started to question that. And I think when we got the studio, that was a big move too, of like, now they're getting super legit.
Well, when we joined Rooster Teeth, I think was the first.
When we partnered with an MCN, yeah,
exactly.
I always have to try to,
yeah. It's like when we partnered with Rooster Teeth, that was the first time a lot of people, which was back in March of last year.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, oh, they're turning their back on who they are. And then the next time was this studio. They're turning their back on who they are.
And that's why I think I always talk about it. One of the most freeing moments for me was at that morning show where Colin had already come in, hugged us, and left. And people were in the chat were like, well, what does this do for X, Y, and Z? And we were like, I don't know. Like, we are still the guys in the spare bedroom. The spare bedroom's just got a video wall and it's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, we are still those people. So it was the fact that Colin leaving, you know, in 2017, we definitely didn't expect it to happen when it happened, which then meant it changed the rest of the year. You know, now we're 6 months in. We announced all this stuff with 6 months behind us, and now we get to go 6 months out and start planning out again. Yeah. But it was that thing of, it needed to change everything, and it changes the scope of the company and like, who are we and what content do we want to make, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that gets me excited, is the fact that we are all on the same page and we're all going towards the same goal, and we have a community that's with us on that. And I think based on the reaction to what the kids at Kinda Funny Live 3 said and the comments have been, whether it be Twitter or whether it be YouTube comments, people are behind us on that too. Because again, it is us listening. Even when we weren't talking to you, we were listening to you in terms of what you wanted, and then combining that with what we wanted. And I think we got a great fucking thing coming up. Absolutely. I'm more excited about Kinda Funny than I ever have been, because I feel like we're finally on the precipice of doing what we've always wanted to do with it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like, leaving and starting it, it was exciting to do it on our own, but it was like, there was more we wanted to do with it. There was more places we wanted to take it. There was something we were building. And I feel like we, you know, took a step backwards here this year, obviously, because we had to readjust and figure everything out. But I think we're on the right track now. I think we're on the precipice of greatness.
Yep, absolutely. Do you want to talk about the shows?
Sure. I mean, that for me, that's where it starts, right? You're watching the Game Over Greggy show right now. You're lucky. Not much changes on the Game Over Greggy show. Yeah. The plan for the Game Over Greggy is that we'll still have the fourth chair rotating. We like bringing in guests. They add a nice perspective we don't have. They bring in topics we don't have. Exactly. They get us energized because they're energized again to be here doing stuff. I think Andy will be on it more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Andy, go ahead.
I would say that Andy is not the fourth chair, but he's the default fourth chair.
Sure.
If we don't have a guest, he will be the guy.
What's weird? For me, the weird thing to think about it, right, is that we're co-founders. We wear a million caps, right? You know, you worry about healthcare and payroll and the animated series. You worry about Kind of Funny Live. You worry about ads every week. I worry about fucking booking stupid shit like E3. But we all host, right? I feel like Andy is in that vein. Like he's like at E3, right? We're going to E3. Andy's seeing a bunch of stuff. Andy's talking about games. That's what we're using Andy as at E3. It's just that in the history of Kind of Funny, if you are an on-camera person, you are anchoring the Game Over Greggy show, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like that's how it's always been. Whereas Andy's the first person who really is. He's a host. He's out there doing stuff, but he doesn't. You can't look at a show and say, "I know Andy's going to be on that show," because that's not how his role works right now.
Yeah, host isn't in his title.
Exactly.
In content.
Yeah, exactly. So Game Over Greggy show, still gonna have the rotating chair, still gonna bring in different people. The big changes I think happen when you start looking at it through the lens of Patreon. We're changing the way we do Patreons in a bunch of different ways, but most importantly is that at the dollar level now, we're eliminating the bonus episode of the Game Over Greggy show. The one-on-one episodes we loved doing. We still love doing them.
I feel like the bonus episodes were always a work in progress for us. When we first started doing them, it was just another episode of the Game Over Greggy show with 4 topics. And as we did that, we realized that it felt weird because we wanted to be a bit more just natural and hanging out, but sticking to the segments felt forced to us as content creators. And then when we made it like, fuck it, we're just going to hang out and talk about a topic for an hour. Realized that was really hard to talk about a topic for an hour. So then it just turned into us just talking. Yeah. And it got to a point where, especially with the morning show, that people seemed to not find value in that. And we got a lot of feedback of that. So we eventually turned it into something that we really liked, which was one-on-one interviews. Yeah. Where we did deep dive into people. And people, there's a lot of... There's a lot of... disagreement between guests being on Game Over Greggy and the whole show being about who they are. Right. Because a lot of people really liked it and a lot of people didn't. So we found a nice kind of vibe where it's like, let's have these people on Game Over Greggy to just have fun and talk about stuff. We'll do a one-on-one with them that is the deep dive interview.
Yeah, it's a different format, really. Yeah. But both fun. But yeah, you're right. Like it became kind of a natural iteration of the other thing.
And cool. And I think that the reason that we're getting away from it right now is it's definitely a trial period. We're trying to see the reactions to this based off a lot of the feedback we got from you guys, and that could become its own show in the future, a one-on-one thing that I feel like we would want to plan a bit more and like put a 100%. Bit more. Yeah,
we want production value too. Yeah. We don't want everything just to go up and be Kevin and Greg eat a pizza with the logos backwards because we drew it. You know what I mean? And we're trying we want it to be the polished product we want to give you. I know it was on purpose, but I'm just saying that's its own show. Because my problem with it, to be frank with doing the bonus episodes was I bring in friends, you know what I mean? I bring in my cool friends who are voice actors or run their own show or do whatever, right? And you bring them in and they do the show and not that many people see it. Like we just know the engagement numbers on those episodes aren't great. And so that was a problem where even people who were watching it were saying, I love this kind of content. You should put it out for other people. And it's like, well, that's a great point. We don't want it. And so it's that thing of with so many of you supporting us at that level, the number of people who can get those bonus episodes, the fact that you're not getting them says something's wrong with our delivery system.
And then when we started doing on January 5th this year, we announced that we were going to put them out for the public a month later. And that caused a whole other chain of issues with how people receive their podcasts.
The amount of tweets of hey, this went wrong. I'm like, no, it's not up wrong. It's right. It's
so we're kind of taking this as a refresh point. Yeah. And we want your feedback. If you want them back, we'll figure that out. Yeah. But we're replacing it with something that a lot of people have been asking for, which is the podcast live. Right. So you can watch them as soon as we are recording them.
Which is the one thing that
bite you in the ass,
me
son.
Personally. Yeah.
You're live every day. And you normally don't fuck it up.
Normally, there's one set of every 10 times. No, I mean I think it's awesome. I think it's super cool. Yeah, I think it's a really good treat because I think especially if depending on how we're going to do it, seeing a little behind the scenes too before we start and afterward, it's really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, the idea will be that if you're going to support us on Patreon at $1, and this goes for Kind of Funny games as well, so that'd be for the games cast, which we'll get to in a little bit. But for Game Over Greggy on Kind of Funny, the idea is that morning you'll get a Patreon message that says, "Hey, we're going to be recording around 3 p.m. This is the link. go there and you'll be able to watch it. When the show ends, we're going to delete that archive. You won't be able, like, this isn't one of the things like when we do the Q&A, or we used to do Q&As, you could go watch later. The idea there is the fact that we still have if you want the audio early, it's $5. If you want the video early, it's $10.
But now ad free on Patreon.
Right.
That's a very, very, very important
right.
thing.
So that's the addition to that performance. But still, for the $1 thing, if you watch it live, you have to watch it live. And I know that sucks for people maybe at work, maybe in a different country, blah, blah. We think there'll be value in it. We think it's going to work out a better way for you in terms of you getting something more important out of it.
Absolutely.
Also on this dollar range, which is super important, is the fact that I think it was always my favorite. Like, I mean, we look at our content in a different way than you guys. It was always my favorite, like, cringy moment of, like, in the old episodes of GameOverGreggy show, I'd pop up and say, get everything early at kindoffunny.com or patreon.com/kindoffunny. In reality, all you could get early was the GOG episode. You couldn't get anything, or you couldn't get Love and Sex stuff early. You couldn't get Oration early. You couldn't get anything like that early. The $1 level now officially gives you everything but the podcast early. And I guess it kind of does get you the podcast early with it being live. But more importantly, what I'm saying is you will get, we're doing, we're going to do limited seasonal run shows. I'm doing Cooking with Greggy in September. I'm super excited about it. We're doing Kind of Funny Doodles in July. It's going to be, these episodes of the show going live. You will now get those early on Patreon. We are, at the dollar level, we're giving you a reason of like, hey, we've heard what you want from this thing. We understand how we think to give you the content you want.
Yeah. So, don't quote me on this, but the idea is that the premium shows, and we're referring to that, we need to come up with a better name for it. But it's the stuff that's not
seasonal
just
shows.
us.
Yeah, I mean the shows that are
seasonal shows, stuff that's not just us podcasting. The things that we're trying to do, the Love and Sex stuffs of the world and whatnot. The idea is like Kind of Funny Doodles will come back. I think it's the first week of July, and you can get it on Patreon on Monday if you support it just $1. Or it goes free to everyone on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we're testing out this 24-hour window, which I think is going to be really good. Then once the season of Doodles ends, Cooking with Greggy is going to start.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. And who knows? There's nothing announced past Cooking with Greggy, so we'll have to see if it works or not. But
is the same model for Cooking with Greggy?
Yes.
Or it's 24-hour model?
Yeah.
Yep, 24-hour model, Cooking with Greggy. And then the same thing on the game side with shows like Party Mode that we'll get into. Where Party Mode will debut, I think, on Wednesday, but you can get it early on Tuesday on Patreon.
And so then, as you mentioned, you might say then, well, what's the benefit then of supporting at the $5 or $10 level? It's early access to the audio or the video. And again, the hook here is that they're now ad free. And when I say ad free, I mean none of the profile hours, none of the Blue Apron. We love them. Thank you for your support. But I'm saying like nothing there that isn't about us. Like if there's going to be, hey, we need to tell you Kind of Funny Live 3 is coming up. Hey, this is going to happen. That's going to be there.
So no podcast ads.
Yeah.
None of the traditional things
There'll
that
be updates.
you've heard from us. There'll definitely be like when we have cool new stuff in the store or Kind of Funny stuff. Kind of Funny ads will remain, or content, or we're going to be at PAX and that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we want you to know that stuff, and we don't see them as ads.
Yeah, we think that plays, and let us know if you disagree. We think that plays to what you want out of us and who we are, right? That you want to know that content. And again, this is, if we're not making it clear, this is all an ongoing discussion.
100%.
This is 100% in motion, in flux all the time. So you need to tell us what you think, whether it be on the forums, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on Patreon, whether it be on this podcast, wherever you're getting it, we want to know. And we want to know. We're going to get to survey results because we put out a survey.
100%. Yeah. And going off of that too, I know that there has been a lot of talk in the community about this ad-free thing and about being upset that we get Patreon money and ad money. And I totally feel you, and that's why we're making this happen. A lot of people are like, oh, this should have happened a long time ago.
Sure.
It's all back-end stuff. Thank you. But this requires us to make 2 edits of each podcast, which that time starts adding up and whatever, which means we have Cool Greg to edit the podcast, which gives more time to Kevin to do stuff. So it's a thing of we need the money to do it this way, and it's growth. Everything grows on each other, and we appreciate your patience with all of it, and we do look at the feedback. For this.
I've talked about this publicly since it started, because I remember that being a request, and I said, when it first started on the Patreon, the fact of the matter was that, we're only promising you early access to the show, and the show has an ad, so that's the end of it. And then the other thing was that, I know it doesn't seem like it would take that much longer to edit, but it does take that much longer to process. That's where it gets stuck. When you're putting a 2-hour thing through the ringer again, that's when you get an issue.
It's a lot more, and it's a lot more management as well, right? So you have a very big file management issue, especially when you're considering also throwing in the live aspect of it, which is a whole other aspect, which is a whole other, basically.
Don't worry, Kevin, it's gonna be fine.
Kevin just started sweating and having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, I know you guys have said this over and over again. You said you're deleting the archive. We are going to upload the show to YouTube. It will be free for the public.
Yeah.
It'll just be windowed 24 hours before right?
No.
Is that what we're looking at? No.
No. If you watch it live, you have to watch it live.
Right. No, I'm saying this, but that archive goes away. Eventually, it will get uploaded to
Topic
YouTube.
by
and
topic, day by day,
and just like we've done before.
Yeah. And
Just letting
early
you know.
access will go up as usual on Fridays.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
When people, here's my question for you guys. What podcast-wise, people listening on iTunes, that goes up same schedule.
So here's what's awesome about
Right.
the iTunes thing. Not only does it go up same schedule, now because there's the ad-free version and the Patreon and there's the different versions being made.
This
the
one has the
date
right fucking date.
Problem is gone. And the time it goes up publicly, it'll be up to date. So when you search for your podcast apps, this isn't going to be a week behind every single time.
Oh, that's great.
So that's fantastic.
Super huge.
Another thing we've heard a lot about.
Here's what I'm very excited about the seasonal concept, right? Because for the longest time we with Love and Sex Stuff, for instance, we flirted with that show kind of never ending, doing things like that. With Cooking with Greggy, we actually finally got a chance to sit down, and I kind of got to pick your brain about what you want that to be. And I think it's going to be really fun. It's just for me personally to throw a little bit more effort into that, knowing it's not something that we have to do
all the time.
We're trying to do every week and get on the weekly schedule, whereas we can treat it a little bit more how I kind of wish we treated the animated series, which is you record 8 or however many there's going to be together at the same time, do a post at the same time, and then they're all pretty much ready, so we're not sweating. We can actually figure out how to promote them and figure out how to have fun with them. I also have an idea in my head for how I want the show to look. I think it's going to be really, really fun. So just being able to sink my teeth into that, like a project that I feel like is doable. It's a little aggressive, but doable. I think is going to be super fun. And like when and if Love and Sex Stuff ever comes back, like same thing with that, where it's like, cool, we can then go do the same thing we did at Rooster Teeth, right? We go back and see our friends in LA or something like that and just really have a lot of fun with that, knowing that it doesn't have to be, we don't have to get as much bang for our buck as possible out of a trip like that.
Yeah,
we can just go down there. We're like, say if it's 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever, have fun doing that.
Focus on
it. Put as much creativity in those as possible. I'm not stuck on Sunday nights after you text me going like, shit, you're right, I got to cut one of these and get it out on Monday morning. Those are hopefully we'll start to get more toward the traditional pipeline of a production pipeline. Now that we have dedicated editors and dedicated producers and dedicated shooters, things like that. So that's really exciting for me.
So then Doodles is coming back. That is very soon, first week of July. It's going to go out there. There'll be once a week.
Doodle of me in Star Wars is fantastic.
Zach Wenzel is
the man,
beast.
the homie.
We got to meet both the Zachs
awesome.
at Kind of Funny Live, and that was fun.
They've both been at multiple Kind of Funny Lives.
I call him the Zach. I remember meeting both of them distinctly this time, which is good.
Yeah.
Because like Zach Silver came up to me and was like, hey man, I'm Zach Silver. And I'm like, what's up, Zach Silver?
Yeah, no, Zach Silver's the guy that makes all of our logos for the show. So
he did
made
the
that.
Cooking with Greggy logo. He did this logo.
GameOverGreggy and all the
He's
cool
a talented motherfucker.
He is.
He's very cool. But yeah, so Cooking with Greggy's coming in September. Doodle's coming in July. So we're talking about the Kind of Funny content channel right now.
Yeah.
Game Over Greggy show. We addressed all of those Patreon changes. I think we hit everything, right?
Yeah.
And then the last piece of content on the Kind of Funny channel is Kind of Funny Morning Show.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you can't talk about Kind of Funny Morning Show now without talking about jumping over the other one of Kind of Funny Games Daily. I think it makes more sense to talk about Kind of Funny Games Daily first. So Colin leaves unexpectedly. And what do we do with PS I Love You XOXO?
Sure.
And it was a long conversation with you and me, of me taking your feedback, me talking to you guys, figuring out what I wanted to do, and did I want to do another PlayStation show on my own? And it was that thing of I could have, and I was so heartwarming that so many of you hit me up and were like, you started Beyond long before, or you were one of the founders of Beyond long before Colin was a part of it. Like, we want to see you and we want to hear this PlayStation voice and keep that going. I understand that. It was just the thought of like, who could I bring in as a second banana on or a co-host or whatever you want to call them, you know what I mean, on a PlayStation show that has that kind of knowledge, that has that kind of acumen. And it's not to knock anybody. It's not to knock you. It's not to knock Danny. It's not to, anybody that way. It's just the fact that games journalism isn't set up that way anymore. In a way of, I started Podcast Beyond when I was on the IGN PlayStation team. Colin moved to the IGN PlayStation team. It was easy to do that. And then we left and we just kept that rolling. You know what I mean? But now I don't think that makes as much sense.
I mean, that's a good point that I didn't even think about. Like when IGN really primed people, especially in those days, to be an expert in an area. Even when you think about like Nintendo or Xbox, like Ryan McCaffrey is the Xbox expert.
Because he came from Xbox or official Xbox magazine.
The Xbox team doesn't exist anymore at IGN, so there is no other Xbox expert there, right? Like McCaffrey is just that dude, even though now his title is
features editor or something. No, not features.
Reviews, right?
No, that's Stapleton. Okay.
Ryan McCaffrey's
Yeah.
previews overall, but he still has that Xbox background in the same way that you and especially Colin
had a lineage of
had the
PlayStation.
lineage of
Yeah.
PlayStation.
And so it was that thing of anybody I brought in, I knew would constantly be torn apart in the comments that they're not calling, that they didn't know as much as this. How could they not know that this game was from fucking Sucker Punch back in the day? I don't know how you wouldn't know Sly Cooper, but you know what I mean. And so the idea was like, I heard all your comments that you wanted that kind of hard, like that was the show that brought you to Kind of Funny Games because it was hard hitting, because it was, we're going to go really deep into this news, into this question, into this thing, because Gamescast is meant to be top level. It's meant to be for big questions, evergreen topics that we could jump into. And we were bad at that even. We'll get to that in a second too. I heard all of that. And so I knew that even if I didn't want to do, and I put in quotes, want to do PS I Love You XO anymore, I wanted to do something in that vein with that DNA, with the DNA that was Podcast Beyond. Because I don't know if you noticed, it was really well kept secret, but PS I Love You was a direct copy of Podcast Beyond that we used to do.
I would have never guessed. What was that awesome segment that you totally came up with?
We've never
talked about before?
We've never ever talked about this story before, but it was we literally published PS I Love You XOXO episode 1, and we were sitting around the table when everybody came, and we were like, oh, it was great, blah, blah, blah. And Colin's like, yeah, I wonder if IGN's going to get mad. And I was like, yeah, I don't think they will. And Nick's like, why would they get mad? I'm like, oh, well, the show is pretty much a direct copy of Beyond. He's like, oh, it's not like you're using the same names or anything. I'm like, no, we're calling the Roper Report Roper's Report. And he's like, you're idiots. Why would you do that? Why you got so mad? You're like, well, of course they're going to get mad.
The dragon.
Yeah, exactly. No, but to IGN's credit, they were totally cool with it. So yeah, I wanted to take that DNA and do something with it, but I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to help fix the problems we know exist with Gamescast. And this is something I think...
Well, not just Gamescast, with our games content.
Right, our games content in general, right? Is the fact that, again... We've done this thing, you know, the blanket of negativity and all stuff. It might have seemed at times like we weren't listening. We're always listening. We're always lurking in some thread, going through and catching every piece of feedback we can. And so we saw the fact that people weren't thrilled with how the Kind of Funny Games channel is only getting the Games Cast. But if I'm getting the Games Cast, by the time I get the Thursday breakout, if it was recorded on Wednesday, that's a week and a day old. Like old ass news. That doesn't help. And so we wanted to give you that news product, and we were doing a great job with PS I Love You to an extent, because even PS I Love You was great. Recorded it Monday night. Fuck. By the time it posts on Tuesday, it's fucked. Like this, you know, they announced this, they canceled that, blah, 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 blah. And so to move forward with that DNA, you know, Tim started talking to me about, well, what if we did a daily game show? And how does that look? And what does that look like? I'm like, we already have the morning show. And then it was the conversation, well, the morning show isn't where Colin and Greg Live started. Colin and Greg Live started, you know, Colin's like, let's do Mike and Mike, which is an ESPN show. Let's do Mike and Mike, but for video games. And that's what we said. And then it was, well, we'll bring in other pop culture too and all this different stuff. And then you can even follow the track of the whiteboard coming out and all this different stuff. And then arguing with Kevin is like, even when Colin's here, it gets so far off the original track of where it was that...
I think really like the biggest turning point was when the Internet Explorers went from being a joke to, and like, oh, there's fun clips and stuff, to that was part of the show.
Yeah.
And it became Internet Explorers.
Right.
I think it went hard right on that.
Right. And that was the thing of like, that definitely has a fan base, and we're not getting rid of that. Kind of Funny morning show is still going to have the shenanigans, and we'll talk about that in a second. But it did lose people who were like, wow, this is where I was coming to get the daily update of news about games in general. So Kind of Funny Games Daily, long-winded, is going to be your daily show that is a daily PS I Love You XOXO, but that covers the entire industry. And I know there's been a few people like, oh, but we want to hear about PlayStation. I'm still Greg Miller, motherfucker. I'm still going home tonight to get my fucking platinum in The Walking Dead. Yeah. I just was telling him, I got told that Tales from the Borderlands on the disc has its own platinum. I'm fighting the urge to get that. I'm still fucking getting ready to play some Vita shit on my way to RTX, or not RTX, E3, whatever goddamn show is coming up. Like, trust me, the show's still going to have a lot of PlayStation stuff to talk about and be what it is. But like, we do want to talk about what's happening with our love of Switch or whatever.
And I think taking that even further, this show, as well as all of these shows, specifically Morning Show, Gamescast, and Games Daily, we're trying to add a lot more segments into them. And that is total work in progress. We're totally trying to feel off your vibe of what you guys like and don't like. But based on conversations we had last night, really getting into planning what Games Daily is versus Gamescast and why they're different and why they both exist and coexist together.
Yeah.
Something I like is that there's not dedicated days to different systems, but just naturally, because of where the different content drops are, Tuesdays, when you're used to play PS I Love You, are going to be more PlayStation focused.
Right.
Whereas Thursdays, when Nintendo's announcement of what's on its eShops comes out. We're going to talk about that. And then we're like, oh, well, we might as well talk about Xbox a little bit more on Wednesdays.
Yeah, well, they do at least their digital stuff seems to pop off there anyway, too.
Yeah, but also it's important to note, too, that like timing wise, right? So as opposed to doing an hour and roughly 15 to an hour and 30 minute long morning show, this will allow you guys to be a little bit more focused, well, a lot more focused on just the stories that are kind of like the heavy hitting stories, right? We don't have to go, like there are always times like on Fridays where you're like, well, there's not really a lot going on right here. You don't have to fill an hour and 30 minutes with all the news. You can just fill, what are we doing, 45 minutes for these? Roughly,
no time. I say that we feel it out. Like some episodes could be 30 minutes, some episodes could be an hour.
Sure.
But I really think that 45 minutes is
45 minutes seems like a sweet spot.
It seems like the sweet spot, and we'll have to see when the show starts.
Yeah, we'll
but
see.
We're jumping around a bit, but for the context of this.
Trust me, if they've stayed 33 minutes into this episode, they're just here for the ride and hear what we're doing.
The Kind of Funny morning show typically for us goes from 11 to noon. But there's sometimes it goes from 11 to 12:30, right? So we're kind of taking that and dividing it in two. Shenanigans in the first half and then business in the second half. And you guys are here for the game business for us. You're not here to hear us talk about the news in depth about comic books and superheroes and stuff.
Yeah,
that's
we will
start
to get in a little bit in that.
But in a more,
I would say.
like the way me and Greg were talking about it last night of how the morning show and its news differs from the game show and its news is the game show, we're talking about the news, and that is the whole point, is us giving us our opinions on that.
Yeah.
Whereas the morning show stuff is more, here's stuff for us to talk about.
Sure.
You know?
Here's things that are happening.
Here's things that are happening.
That you should
Let's
be
have
aware
a
of are
discussion.
happening. Yeah.
It's morning show is more about hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
And here's a couple of nerdy news stories you need to know about that we can kind of jumpstart and talk about. Just reading the headline. There are things we don't even need to read the article. We can just look at the headline and discuss it, right? Whereas the game show, complete opposite. Is entirely about the Roper's Report and all that.
Yeah, it's PS I Love You with topic of the show ripped out of it. Because topic of the show then moves over to Gamescast, where that's another big thing level topic.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure, what do you got?
Since this is the third technical spiritual iteration of Beyond, can we call it Chris Roper's Report now? Think on it.
I'll stew on that one. I do like that a lot. Yeah. But no, I mean, you're right. That's the point. I was talking to somebody on the forums today where they were like, I'm confused of what it's Kind of Funny Games Daily is going to look like. And he had the morning show with like the banners and everything, and then he had PS I Love You below, where we're looking at each other. And I'm like, it looks like PS I Love You, because the morning show, again, you said it, is hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
It is going to be, we want to do segments about you and me. I want you and I to do every Wednesday on the morning show, because I want it to be about have a lot of comic thrust to it. Of here's our pull list. Here's what I'm super excited is coming out today. Hey, over on this place, this person has recommended that we read this thing. That's required reading. Everybody read that, so next Wednesday we get to talk about that. There'll still be movie stuff in there. There'll still be whatever for the day is going to happen.
Yeah, the tips and talking to the chat.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really what it's about.
I'm pretty sure Chad's going to be a huge part.
Chad is dead.
Fuck!
Chad is not coming back.
Chad is a
Y'all
plant.
sold Chad up the river, and I'll never forget it.
I'll tell you one thing about
Thanks.
Chad right now that no one
Astronauts.
understands. Chad's a plant. There's lots of plants in the world, dog.
They grow. They grow
Plants
like
grow.
weeds, son. But no, morning show, it's talking to the chats, doing all this stuff. And then when we switch over to Kind of Funny Games Daily, Kind of Funny Games Daily, like I've told you, is for the most part going to be locked before I leave the day before. Because it's, hey, here's the biggest story since the last show in the 24 hours. And we're going to come in and it's going to be talking to another person. Like I've said, I said this in the show and I didn't, or in the video, and I didn't get into the weeds enough because, again, this is what this video is for, I guess. But it's my one-on-one games podcast, right? Meaning I'm producing it. There's going to be days where it's you and Andrea, it's you and Andy, it's you and Danny, it's Danny and Andrea, it's Andy and, you know what I mean? Like, but we've hired Danny O'Dwyer and Andrea Renee to be hosts on that show. They're not full-fledged Kind of Funny people. They still have their own Patreon, support them, they're still in their own content, but they're coming in twice a week for the most part, depending on their schedules, to each of them come in and be on a show with me or you or whoever to talk about what's happening in the news and do segments there as well. But again, it's a produced show. It is PS I Love You XOXO in the way that we come in, we talk about it. There will be no banners. There will be no latest subs. There will be no tips. There will be no, let's check in on the chat. It will be, we have asked you to submit questions here. I have those pulled up. We're still figuring out the rigmarole of all of it. I'll have them there. I'll have it planned out. I'll have a flow of the show. The one thing I was talking about on the forums again today that I know you already saw and talked to me about was like, I love the idea of a stat boy. And Statboy is from Pardon the Interruption on ESPN, if you didn't know. And what it is that at the end of PTI is the exact same way, where they talk, and then at the end when they're on the outro, like, Statboy, what did we get wrong? And Statboy runs them through all the things they fucked up, because inevitably that happens. You're going to fuck everything up. We're going to get a release date wrong. We're going to say the wrong platform, something like that. I love that idea. I don't think we have that person hire. You mentioned Easy Allies on their podcast.
Yeah, so Easy Allies podcast, which is fucking fantastic. They
Shout out
do
to Brandon
something.
Jones.
They do something really, really cool with it, where they start every episode with a correction segment.
How many? And I'm sorry, I don't know this. Is it weekly podcast?
Weekly podcast,
Okay.
one podcast, just video
Sure.
and audio every week. It comes out, and like the first segment they play, like Kyle, who's the host of it, he'll just be like, "Hey, cue the corrections music," and then there's like little like Diddy plays in the back,
Yeah.
and they just have their audience. I don't know where they get the information. It might be their forums or like
Yeah,
some,
but, like,
some social media or something.
You guys are, this is a Twitch show, right?
Yeah.
So isn't inevitably when you get something wrong, the chat's going to tell you?
Yeah,
when
but
you go
we
not
wrong?
looking at
aren't
the chat.
looking at
I'm
that.
telling you, but he could look at it and be like, "This is."
But then I'm going to get in an argument. Then it's
Yeah.
going to be Kevin says that they got this wrong, and I'm like, no, don't listen to Penguin Von Penguin. They're fucking with you. You
what
don't
I'm
know.
saying is, as the show's going, if multiple people say, "Hey, you got this wrong," someone fact checks that and then shoots you a note on
Sure.
it, something that says, "Hey, these are the 3 things that you guys talked about that may or may not be right."
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be
saying
perfect.
that could be because if you have 1,500 people or 2,000 people in the chat, someone's going to know that that's wrong.
Right.
You're going to see that, and then there's going to be that discussion and organic. Like, I've every time I'm wrong, someone points it out, and I know.
Yeah, I know,
that,
I know,
and I'm
I
like,
know,
"Oh,
I
there
know."
it is. I'm just saying that's a
What they
mechanism
do
you
is
guys could
every
use.
day or every week they start with
See
a
which little
correction
figure into
segment where they talk for about 2 minutes of all like people. Oh, this guy says this. You were wrong about this. Here's why. Whatever. And so it's
Gotcha.
just talking about the last week's episode.
Yeah.
So if we figured out something like that, I think that could be cool. And then that would just be every day. So like the next day, you figure out what
Sure, yeah.
we were wrong about the day before.
But I love the idea of you know right away. And we do have the ability to. We just got to figure it out.
I don't know that we do.
I think it'd be cool if you guys could.
Cool Greg is literally lying on the floor
Yeah,
right now. You're
I
telling me
know.
Cool Greg can't read
But
stuff?
see,
so it's just
that
a-
requires somebody that like that requires an IGN level.
He makes a good point that if a
we
lot of
need
people show up.
Andrew Goldfarb. We're hiring Andrew Goldfarb, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, right.
We're not hiring him, but we need Andrew Goldfarb for that role.
How much
You know
do
what
you
I
think Dornbush costs?
I don't know, $20.
It's weird to talk about people
Dornbush is
when we're
the
talking
guy.
about... Huh?
Is he the real guy or is that Scrabbles? Is Scrabbles?
No, Joe Scrabbles is the made-up name.
That's a fake
Dornbush
guy,
is the
right?
real man. He's the boy wonder of news. It's weird to talk about people in the way you talk about, like, or I'm sure Pokemon cards for you or running a Madden team, like when you're playing the franchise. Like, can I have forward Adrian Foster? Jesus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here I am, Dornbush. Give me a call. Maybe can I get a 2-for-1 deal? You and McCaffrey.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I like that.
Start putting bunk beds in this place, getting
Yeah.
everybody else in here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been all over the place, but that's what we do, right? So, yeah, the idea is splitting in half. The morning show is still the morning show but focused with segments. Hey, let's talk about comics. Hey, Nick's going to go see this movie this week or tonight. Everybody else
We'll
go see
talk
this
about
movie
it.
and
Yeah.
talk about it the
Let's
next
have a
day with them.
conversation
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. It is interacting with you. It's going back and forth in the chat more. It is like, oh, man.
But a little bit, but again, more segmented, right? So like,
Yeah.
I love going through like anytime like Mr. Yasman says, "Hey, Nick, did you see this? You know this is happening. Hey, have you watched this?"
Yeah.
People go, "Have you watched this yet? Have you watched this yet?" So giving people the opportunity to know that maybe those segments might be coming up in a show.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great.
it's cool.
Yeah, that's really good.
right. And it's not about again. I know people there are some people that are diehard like let the show be the shenanigans.
It's gonna be shenanigans.
There's still going to be plenty of shenanigans, but it's just going to be shenanigans that we have a little bit more segmented, so it's not fucking killing Kevin every time we ask him to do 15 things at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think the
And you
big
could look, and you'll know what to look forward to. You'll start to have things to look forward to every day. And
I think the big difference is it's not that the whole show is segmented. The show is going to be segmented in the way that it is currently, which is, we talk about our day, we
Sure.
read a couple news stories, there's the tips, there's the talking to the chat, and then we read
Right.
the subscribers. The difference is, I think that majority of the days are going to have one additional segment that are specific to that day.
Right.
So like Monday, for example, could be Tim and Nick talk about whatever they watched this weekend. Wednesdays will be we talk about the comic
Fuck
books.
yeah, comics.
Yeah, like it's things like that.
And my hope for this is the same hope that I have for all of our shows, right? Is as we continue to evolve these things, that we get closer and closer to, or not closer. I think our shows are entertaining, but the shows get more entertaining because they have a higher production value behind
Right.
them. Because we can plan for these segments, which makes sense, right?
You get to produce it.
Yeah, as opposed to like my imagination for that 45 minutes is that we take all the fun of the hour and 30 and pack it into that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Right?
100%.
So we're not having that. We don't have that like inevitable time when there's dead space.
Yep.
Or there's dead air. Excuse me, not dead space.
Or you have or I read a headline that you know nothing about.
Right, exactly,
And so it's then
right.
you're like, well, what do you think? I'm like, just
like
bounce
boom,
back
I
forth.
know what to prepare for. We're here. We're in 30 to 45 minutes. I got to get out because you guys got to
It's condensed. It's all the good stuff boiled down right there, right?
And I think that's going to make for a better podcast also. So people that are just specifically listening for the audio aspect of it, I think that's going to be, the show's going to move quicker, for me, and we'll cover more ground.
You know, it's again, listening to your feedback and everything else. We've heard you that you want Nick to have a movies podcast. We've heard you that you want us to have a comics podcast. And part of that's us. That's a passion project for us. So this is a great way of, maybe you don't give a flying fuck about comics. So you know you're not going to really check in on Wednesdays. That's totally fair. But you know that Nick's going to talk about movies on this day and that day in some specific fashion. That's great.
It's also a good way to, like, you know, test the waters on those things as well.
100%. Well, I mean, because again, back to our point of, I guess we hear that you want these things. It is the realities of how big we are and what we can and can't do. And so, like, yeah, I would love. I think you have a graphics package, right, for a comic book show.
I do.
Yeah, like we've been trying to get that off the ground for a while, and it's just like, there's nowhere in the schedule to go with it.
Yeah.
And especially when everything's changing.
I think this is even better than having a show, though. Because I think this allows us to just focus on the segment within the morning, within something that we already know how to do and already can make it happen. So that way it's not this overwhelming thing where we're going to just half-ass something just to get it out.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a great point. And it also, like, I mean, looking at the way we've laid it, I fucking hate you.
Well, it's the Red Bull. It goes right through you.
That's why you shouldn't have gotten one.
I love them so much.
That's why, even looking at the schedule now, our biggest fear when you and me talking about this, I'm like, I don't know, man. And granted, it was like, I don't know, man, before we were talking about Danny and Andrea of could we do Games Daily without extra hosts? And I was like, I don't fucking think so. And it was that thing of, I think the schedule will kill us, blah, blah, blah. And now looking at these weeks laid out, I'm like, these days actually look easier and more, because again, much like the show being segmented, scheduling out the day and segmenting the day, you actually look there and you're like, all right, cool. It's not such a sliding scale of trying to shove all this shit in different places.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's going to be a lot more work put into pre-production of the shows, which is going to make better shows.
100%.
Because right now, how it stands, the morning show, we come in and one of us kind of takes up producer for the day. Yeah. And that is entirely dictated by who is here, who is most free, who's on the show that is going to lead. It's never Nick. Spoiler, it's never Nick.
You got some entertainment stories on that? Yeah, we got some entertainment stories on
that. Nick. It's always me or you.
Yeah.
And that really just kind of depends on how we're feeling that day.
Yeah.
You know? And we'll just fill it out with the news stories that we think will make a good show and kind of go from there. But I think this allows us to, instead of it just being the 20 minutes before the show starts, this is thinking about what's the show the next day. You know?
And I do think it helps out, too, of the fact of right now it is, here's a whole bunch of shit that's kind of interesting or we feel like we need to talk about. Whereas for sure with Games Daily, it's going to be, hey, we're doing this every day and focusing on one aspect of nerddom, whatever. So it is, here are the 3 biggest stories. Maybe some days it'll be 5, but I don't want to go beyond that because there are segments like the upcoming list of all software on all platforms by some of the kind of funny people that'll be like, hey, here are the release dates. So I no longer have to pull up the fact of an Atlas announced this release date and pull up a story and then try to talk about it when you don't really need to do it. There are the catch-all, hey, we're packaging everything together. Here's that piece of news.
Well, so while Nick's gone,
Thank God.
Let's kind of dive a bit more into the game side of things
with
Gamescast and Games Daily and how they're different.
Sure.
Games Daily is P.S. I Love You, minus topic of the show. It is news. It is talking NPD numbers. It is the kind of daily, here's what's happening right now. The questions that you're going to respond to from listeners are about things that are happening that day
in the moment,
or the day before.
Yeah.
You know?
And one thing we haven't really stressed, and I want to make sure everybody does understand, recording it live on Twitch, not responding to you doing anything on Twitch, because it's meant to be a YouTube show, which it will be on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, and a podcast on its own, which it will be on podcast services around the globe.
So it being live just means you get to watch it
as we record it.
Up to the moment as it's happening.
And so the idea behind that is also listening to you of hey, yeah, I subscribe to Kind of Funny Games and I'm getting old news on the Gamescast. And then I look at the Kind of Funny channel and that's getting the morning show that's anchored by a Persona story.
Exactly.
We're breaking it up again where it's cool, if you want only the game stuff, it's over here. If you want only the Kind of Funny stuff, it's over there. If you want to, I'm sorry, you got to click one button and go to the other channel and watch it.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. You bring up a good point there where back when it was Colin and Greg Live and it was on the Twitch channel and it didn't go on YouTube, this wasn't an issue.
Right.
Once it became the morning show on January 5th, that made it weird where our best games content was on the Kind of Funny channel, not the Kind of Funny Games channel. So this fixes that. In addition to that,
it redefines Gamescast.
It redefines Gamescast. And I think this is the most important change that we're making overall than any of this.
Yeah.
Because Gamescast is the thing that we understand we have the biggest issue with, and we always have.
We heard you from the get-go, and we tried to figure out how to solve it.
And it was always hard. So the problem was we found such success with GOG and with the breakout segment segment by segment, topic by topic, early on Patreon or whatever. And I think that was instrumental to our success on Patreon when we launched Kind of Funny Games and had Gamescast be identical. The symmetry helped. People understood.
You could wrap your head around it.
And they supported us to that place where they wrapped their head around it and they wanted that to happen. And when it was me, you, and Colin, we would have a lot to bring to the table, and we had those discussions. We kept going. As time went on, though, Gamescast, and I'd say this happened a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It hit a rock where it became a challenge to do that show. And coming up with topics was difficult. And it wasn't just me. Like, we had discussions.
Oh, yeah, we talked about it all the time.
About what because a lot of people think that, oh, Tim just chooses Nintendo topics. It's like, any topics we chose was a vote by committee, like team thing. I just happened to be the host of it, right?
Yeah.
But as we kept going with it, we realized there was those issues, but there was just no way to solve it. And I think that it took this major shakeup for us to go, we need to forget what we thought worked and forget what worked. We need to just do what we believe is going to work now.
Yeah.
And that's why we decided that we're going to make Gamescast a once-a-week show that is live on Patreon on Friday and then live to everyone on Monday.
Recorded on Thursday, which is a day later.
So it is more similar to PS I Love You than ever before.
Sure.
It's the only difference being Patreon, where you can get it early. But yeah, we're recording Thursday. So if you're a supporter on Patreon, you can watch it on Friday.
Yeah.
Or live on Thursday when we record it if you are supporting
Give us
at $1.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, how does that change the content? It's no longer segmented into 4 segments, which was so hard for us to sometimes push through the what are we playing segment and getting 20 minutes out of that.
Yeah.
When
that was always the problem.
Better as a 5 to 6 minute segment, just talking about it. Right?
And that was always the problem, I feel like, with the fact that Colin and I had PS I Love You XOXO, right? And then you would have Gamescast. So when we'd come in on Wednesday or Thursday or Wednesday to record it, right, after having done PS I Love You on Monday, it'd be like, what are you playing? And it's like, well, Colin and I are having the exact same discussion again. The only addition is you. And so again, Kind of Funny Games Daily changes all that. And the fact that, I'm sure I'm going to talk to Andrea and Danny about what they're playing, right? But me coming to you, we haven't talked about it. Me coming to you and having a guest that hasn't talked about it is like, all of a sudden the shows feel so much different.
Well, even then, I think that Games Daily shouldn't have you guys talking about what you're playing unless
we've talked about it, and I agree with you. But I mean, organically,
what
that's
I'm saying
going
is
to happen.
I think that's more from a news standpoint. Right? It's more of an up to date of just like, here's what I'm playing. Here's the new thing about it.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas on Gamescast, it's more, here, what are we playing? Which means reviews, impressions from preview events we go to, and it's more focused on the behind the scenes stuff, or just the real shit of what we've been playing, whether it's an old game or a new game or a mobile game or a multiplayer match that we did.
Okay, don't get ahead of yourself with the mobile games.
No, whatever. So that's going to be one of the main segments of that show, is what we're playing to kick off the show.
Sure.
And there's not going to be news because that's covered in Games Daily. And the one news thing that we're going to do is each one of us is going to choose what we think is the biggest news story of the week.
Yeah.
And we're just going to put that out there just so that people understand
and discuss about it, make a case for it.
The biggest thing that happened that week. But otherwise, there's a topic of the show, just like PS I Love You, but it could be about anything. Those topics of the show are, the idea is they come from Games Daily. So when you guys are having conversations, or we're having conversations, it's like, oh, we should talk about this on Gamescast. We're trying to limit the amount of times we're like, well, we talked about this on this show, but I'll say it again.
Yeah.
Now it'll be more like, well, we talked on Games Daily about how we need to talk about this. Here's that.
Yeah.
Right. So people that watch Games Daily every day, when it comes to Friday, will have.
Suddenly you have these breakouts that are brand new each and every day, and then you do have this show that's anchoring at the flagship of the channel that has all this different content on it.
Yeah. And then we're going to keep the listener questions at the end, so that's going to be great. And in addition to that, I have a whole bunch of fun segments that I'm trying to add based on a lot of your feedback, and some of them are really good. But I want to do a thing where it's like This Week in Gaming, where we look back and it's like a history lesson, where it's like, on this week in 1987, this thing happened.
Sure.
That could be fun. I got a bunch of other stuff. You have to watch the all-new Gamescast.
Exactly.
Premieres.
When's all the start?
June 19th.
The week of June 19th is when we kick off all this stuff, because we've got E3 next week, if you didn't know.
In addition to Gamescast and Games Daily, there is Party Mode.
Yeah.
Which is going to be fucking awesome.
I'm excited about that. I was just literally, before we started this, I was working on the graphics package for that. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah, it's
I
going
have
to
a good feeling about this.
So Party Mode is the answer to, why do our Let's Plays suck? And I feel like our Let's Plays suck because there's not focus put on them. And 50% of them are, we're here with the dev, they're showing their game, or we just got a new build of a game, we're playing it. Or, hey, we're fucking doing beat cop shit, and it's just like we're just having fun.
You don't know what you're getting.
You don't know what you're getting.
How dare you,
Don't
sir.
stay back, sir.
How dare you, sir? Sir.
You don't know what you're getting with it, and we're like, we need to figure that out.
Expectations. The content didn't suck. It's people's expectations of what they were clicking into.
Well,
what they want.
it boils down to that line that we always skate, right? Which is like, are we being informative or are we being entertaining?
100%.
And what is the difference between
It's that, but I think in addition to that, it sucked as a user because there was no consistency. No one ever knew when these shows were coming.
Exactly. But again,
it was a
that's
bad
true.
experience.
Evolution of Kind of Funny growing. We've got someone that can focus on that now and actually just focus on evolving that product and making it super fun. And by that product, I mean party mode. Right. Andy obviously, like, as we've been looking over his shoulders, is doing some of the edits for the up and coming party modes we have coming out, and it's awesome. It's fucking awesome to be like to just have fun and walk in and have him be like, hey, check this thing out real quick, and he like punches in on something or does something really cool that Kevin couldn't have done, not because of he's not technically good enough for it, but he can't do it at 2 o'clock in the morning after he's already done all the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, well, these edits take time.
They take a lot of time.
They take finesse,
and we want them to take
producing.
time. That's the thing. We want, like, for the first time in the history of our company, this is what I'm very excited about. Is like we're literally saying, hey, make this thing as good as you can. Like, just make it that's the important thing. That's the importance, right? Make it as good as you can. Right. We always try to make our podcasts great, but there's always been such a time constraint and everyone's wearing too many hats. And this is the first time we're like, yo, this is your job. This is cool. Like, you can own this. Like, enjoy it. Have fun. And I think that's really going to show on the product.
Absolutely. And so with party mode versus Kind of Funny Plays, Kind of Funny Plays will exist as it stands now, where it's
sucks now.
There's no consistency at all in terms of when it comes out. But when it does come, that means we had access. That an embargo just went up, so we were allowed to put out a new. It's our preview of games. It's our first look at games.
It's what we just did with Special Delivery. I've talked about this game forever. Now let's play it together. And it's not, I'm trying to be funny about it. I'm like, what's this game like? I don't know. I just bought it.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still us, so we're going to be goofballs no matter what, making jokes. But it is more about talking about the game and why you should or shouldn't play the game.
And having devs on and them explain their game.
Exactly, or them trying to sell the game or whatever it is. Whereas party mode it's not about the game at all. It's about us having fun with the game, us hanging out. It's very much like the original Kind of Funny Plays that we did on the YouTube channel of us hanging out on a couch. The only thing we don't have is
play
a couch.
Smash again?
Yes,
I was just gonna ask that. I was like, do you think we'll ever play Smash?
We're gonna
again?
play Smash, but it's more about us than anything.
course.
And I think that's when you can take the video, and there's gonna be a lot of edits, and we might not even see the whole gameplay in sequence because it doesn't matter.
Right. And then it'll be cool to watch the evolution of that show too, like, and see how we kind of evolve that, because it's in and amongst that, like, each game dictates a different kind of sub style for it, right?
Yep.
The games we're all for together, the games that we want to do, like we multi-camera cuts, things like that. It's just gonna be fun.
It's gonna be
I'm excited about it. It's gonna be a party.
Yeah. Just hanging out with friends and having fun playing
One day
games.
we'll have.
Very excited.
Do you think one day we'll get Andrew WK to come
play with
us?
Undeniably. Yeah. If he fucking did it with the Game Attack guys, I think he'll do it with
us. My God, really? Game Attack sucks.
Yeah.
Hey, fucking Game Attack. Talking about the champ.
Sean Bolin.
No, he's not the champ. Kind of funny to have the belt. They're the champ. By the rules dictate whoever is standing with it at the end wins.
I don't know if you understand this. I have this piece of paper here that states anything goes.
So party mode is going to be fucking dope. Games Daily is going to be dope. Games Cast is going to be much better.
Did I get your eye?
Third chair. What's the word?
Rotating third chair. Ever rotating third chair will continue.
On Games Cast. That's been fun. A lot of people have been liking that. And I think that's it for the content.
For games and
for games and Kind of Funny, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more symmetry between the two. We look at party mode as a premium product. We look at Cooking with Greggy and Doodles as a premium product. Both of those $1 get you them early.
Yeah.
The podcast, GameOverGreggy and Gamescast. The podcast / live shows, morning show and Games Day.
Right.
It's a big thing. I think a part of the push, and like where I talked about this earlier. I think we're on the precipice of something. You know what I mean? Like for me, having Joey and Greg and Andy and everyone in the office together has this different vibe to it, and you feel like we're greater than the sum of our parts kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then to have us when we were on stage together at Kind of Funny Live with Danny and Andrea, and like somebody put up that photo and I changed the Facebook header to it, and it was like, wow, like remember when it was just the four of us around the kitchen table? Like there are all these people here now, and we are all doing specific things, and we're all building towards something very, very particular in what we're doing, and we're getting to be what we want to be. And
it's almost like it's a real company.
Exactly. Watching you guys get to do this, and like, you know, when we had that meeting this week, like granted, we're coming off Kind of Funny Live, which always refills my energy and always like, man, we're doing, but like the meeting on Monday was so great of like, Andy, can you do this? We're doing this. This is the E3 plan, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And then like throughout the week, the camaraderie we've had and all this different stuff, like we're on track for something really fucking awesome. And I think it's part of where we're going is like we talk about not relaunching, but redefining Kind of Funny, if that makes sense. And the fact of like, we're making these Patreon changes, we're changing up the letter, we're doing this stuff. And basically I feel like for me, what I'm trying to do with Patreon is change it away from asking for your support to asking for your subscription.
Yeah.
Because
and earning that.
We are a business and we want to earn it, and you are a customer in a way. You're still a best friend. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm taking away from. But it is the fact of the matter of like, for the first time, we're delivering on the promise of get everything early. Like, this is it. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing as before, where it's like, to take the bonus episodes as an example, the $1 thing, right? The amount of people who had access to that $1 thing but didn't do it, they were there to support us. And I love that you want to support, but I want you to come in and feel like whatever you're subscribing at, you're getting the benefit of as well. Like that is a perk you actually want. That is actually a thing you need. And not even a perk, it's a product you want, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
think the ad-free episodes go a long way to serve that as well.
Yeah.
Where it is, because we, for a long time, have seen our Patreon product as a subscription service, similar to Rooster Teeth First or Hulu or Netflix or whatever. But that does get a little bit muddied when you look at it as crowdfunding.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it is a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but I think that where we're at and the fact that we have employees that are all working towards a common goal, it is now much more so subscription thing where it is a business, and we are trying to grow this business to do more cool things and have our vision come to life.
Yeah. For the times, every time somebody shouts out they want a show, every time somebody shouts out that they want Joey hired full time, it's like, we do too. That's what we're building towards. That's what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? When Cool Greg does want to just stream games in here, like I want him to have time to do that. I want him to have the ability to do that. And when inevitably somebody wants whatever fucking Andy show Andy's going to come up to, I want that too.
Yeah.
But that comes with having to figure out how to go different directions and have everything.
So this is a good segue kind of into talking about
We call them Greg Ways.
the team. And how it stands. So we got obviously the three of us, and everybody by now kind of knows our pros and cons and our skills.
Our pros and cons.
Whatever. You right? But
I know.
It's just kind of like what each of us does for the company and where all that stands. And everyone also knows Kevin, but I think Kevin even now is evolving into a bit more of a
Mr.
manager role in some ways. Like he's still the producer, and I still see it as producer. He is producing these people.
Sure.
And
he produces people quite often here.
And so he is moving off of editing the podcasts on the day-to-day. He's still going to be producing now all of the live shows, which include the podcasts, and switching all of them as well. And also just kind of the bigger picture stuff where it's like, for example, E3, like Kevin's the guy responsible for making sure all of the tech, what tech do we need? Is it going to be there? Kind of Funny Live, same. Yeah, Kevin, he knows what's up. It's so easy for Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm trying to be freaking nice. Then there's Cool Greg, who is the production assistant.
Yeah.
So he's kind of more just like office manager. He's the guy that we're like, yo, we need coffees, which happens a lot. And like that's when we're busy and doing a lot of stuff, he'll go grab lunch for us when we're doing all day streams and stuff like that. But even more so than that, he's editing the podcast.
Yeah.
And he has been editing the podcast for a couple months now. So both GOG, Gamescast, and the ad-free versions and all of that. Am I missing anything there?
For Cool Greg responsibilities, being cool, holding it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish everyone could see Cool Greg right now.
He's so cool. No, but it's all around help, right? It's whatever needs to get done.
I mean,
it's
he's
what
a
Kevin-
PA.
It's what Kevin used to be before Kevin kind of graduated to being really responsible.
Well, I mean, it's what Kevin was. I mean, when just Kevin did everything, and that's what kills Kevin, and why it's what we always talk about, right? Like the funny haha thing that we should have never started but did because we're five of us, and where's it all going to go is like, oh, there's a typo in this thing. Yeah, everyone gives Kevin shit, and it's like we give him shit like this maybe if somebody noticed it during a live show, but like 9 times out of 10 you don't say anything to him because he's doing fucking 14,000 things.
Yeah,
we're doing a lot of shit too, and so I know when I fuck something up and one of you wants to make fun of me about it, I'm like, nah, you don't remember that happened at 3 a.m. because nobody else was awake to do whatever. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Sure. So now we're trying to make him do 9,000 things,
yeah,
and my brother do like 5,000, and we'll be
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But then in addition to that, we have Andy, who
you mean Candy Andy?
His title is like content editor. And the way I see that is he is a producer, but at the end of the day, he's also just like he is an editor. So, and is for party mode specifically. A lot of people are like, oh, why don't we have Andy edit all this other stuff? It's like he is a party mode editor.
Which are like our edits that are intense. Like
very intense.
Star Trek Bridge Crew, you know, we did that Let's Play. We're so proud of it. And we originally think it was supposed to go up before party mode got launched. And we're like, no, this is a party mode.
Yep.
And it is because it is VR face cams, 4 of us doing that. So it's 8 things of footage, let alone all the audio.
The edit includes a pre-edit process of getting everything just kind of organized so that you can do the edit.
Yeah,
and
you gotta
then
sync all the
export,
footage,
exactly,
get it
and the
multicam
audio,
edit,
and figure that out.
Do
so
one
it's like,
pass and then go through and cut out and trim the fat.
Yep. And I think that is, it's much more premium. That's going to take up a lot of time. He also is going to do all of our.
I turned at you and like my neck went like, oh, it was going to pop. Freaked out.
Yeah, you didn't massage, my friend.
A lot of our design work we do for our promo images, giving schedule updates or whatever.
All the E3
all the
schedules
stuff
up, right?
you saw for the E3 schedule and the new content plan. He did that.
Which is, again, is like something we know we've needed forever, and we're still not in a great place of like doing it in a timely fashion of thinking about it ahead of time, because we are always trying to catch up with ourselves. But before it was, even before Joey was hired, it would be, hey Joey, can you ask Zyger to make this thing to get it back? You know what I mean? Like,
so he's gonna be working on that, and then in addition to that, just kind of being backup talent. Like whenever we need someone on the morning show or Games Daily or Gamescast, or I mean, Andy's so talented that he can kind of just fill in.
It's really annoying, actually.
And that's the other thing is like Greg, my brother, is going to be back up for Kevin on the morning show. So Kevin will finally be able to take sick days and not.
Or a honeymoon.
Or whatever it is.
Well, we're all coming on that, right?
So, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. He doesn't know it yet, but yeah, we're gonna spring it up.
Just show up.
Like, hey, Paula Bear.
He'd be so stoked.
We're all going to
Paula
be in
would
your
not
room
be.
today.
But yeah, no, so there's kind of a system growing there. And then Joey's the last piece of that.
Yeah.
I think Joey's the most interesting part to talk about because a lot of people don't understand she's part-time. She only worked 10 hours a week. For
a lot of people don't understand because we didn't do a great job of explaining it.
Yeah,
Because
true.
again, like as we talked about multiple times in here, we're still a bunch of fucking idiots. We don't know what we're doing. So when we announce that, we don't want to. We don't want to like
take away.
We don't want to put an asterisk on her that she's a member of Kind of Funny part time.
Yeah,
but then everybody's like, "Why doesn't she do more?" We're like, "She's already doing too much."
Yeah, no, it's a hard thing to communicate because everybody wants something different out of it. But the thing with Joey is we hired her to be in every single community, seeing when fires started and seeing when things needed to be addressed, whether it's the forums or Facebook or Discord, I guess, or like whatever all these places
are. You knocking the Discord community?
I'm not knocking the Discord. I just don't get it. I was in there and it was scary.
A lot of channels.
Greg.
Then it's also the thing where I've seen Zyger tweet before at Alfredo saying, "Hey, you left your Discord on." Like he can hear him and Jackie. And I'm like,
Yeah, a lot of this sounds scary. Anyway, but no, the
yeah, Kevin knows what I'm talking about.
All these great communities. That was kind of the idea, is that she'd be there and be able to communicate what we're thinking to them, and we have our weekly meetings that she's a part of, and all this. The big thing is there's a difference between community manager and social media manager, but in this new media world that we're in, that difference is usually neglected, and people are hired to do both,
which is a terrible way to do
jack of all trades, master of none, causes a lot of issues and whatever. However, we hit a very interesting place where we hired her as a community manager purely to do that stuff, and then the Colin incident happened, and Colin, his job, like I was saying, we all have our roles. His role that wasn't being on camera was social media manager, getting all the tweets prepped, getting all the Instagram posts prepped, and there's hundreds a week of those between all of us, and so we had to replace that. So she went from being community manager to social media manager pretty quickly, and that's where the priority lied. So her not being in all the communities because there's just simply not enough time to do that. We're trying to work on that. We're trying to figure out a way to bring her on full time so that she will be doing both the things that we need her to be doing. Or just community manager, and then we'll try to figure out the social thing otherwise. I don't know.
We're learning as we go. We're figuring it all out.
But you're right. Those two roles really are like they could definitely be two.
That's what sucks so much about like again, blanket negativity coming in, people being upset and seeing people upset at her. It's like, man, like we fucked her on this pretty bad. You know what I mean? And not explaining the role clear, because she has done. Every week she does way more than 10 hours of work. You know what I mean? And it's like, we didn't handle that properly in a way of making people understand, have their own realistic expectations. But again, it's us learning how we do 100%. All this stuff.
I'm gonna go pee real quick. You guys can just keep talking, keep chatting it up.
Just about anything? Just about anything?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Greg.
How you doing?
Good.
I touched you with my shoe.
I feel like what I'd like to do for you,
Lay it on me.
you and I,
Yeah.
couples massage day after E3.
Okay, okay, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We go out, we pamper ourselves a little bit. Someone gives us like an aromatherapy massage. I don't know.
God. You know what I'm aching to do? Play some games.
Yeah, you should.
Fucking dying to play.
Has
some
it
games.
occurred to you that you won't have stopped working for 3 weeks?
I try not to think about it. I try not to think about that because there was a time, I forget, I don't even remember. Whatever.
Yeah.
Not recently, where I was complaining to Jen. I'm like, I don't understand why I'm so tired. She's like, you've worked the past 2 weekends straight. Like, you haven't. She's like, I know it sounds stupid because your job's fucking playing with toys and being stupid, but like, you need to chill at some point.
Yeah.
And that's like what I talked about in the town hall meeting or whatever, right? Or just the fact of like, this never stops. And so then to have those hard cuts of like, I'm going to do that. That's why I'm not as active as I want to be on Reddit or the forums or whatever. And there's part of self-preservation. There's all this different stuff. And like,
yeah, that's what I like. I mean, like the thing that I like about what we're doing in the months forward, I talked about this a little bit, but I really like the concept of like sitting down with you, being almost your producer again and being like, what do you want to do with Cooking with Greggy?
Yeah.
How can we schedule this as efficiently as possible, put it in a date, set and work backward for like whatever our publish date is going to be for that.
Well, that's the whole thing of like
enjoy and then sit again like we did yesterday and just throw out ideas and see what your vision for the show is and how we can make that
again
happen.
where I was like, I think we're on the precipice of something great here. You know what I mean? Like party mode's gonna be great, sure. Games day is gonna be great, sure. I mean it in the way of like, now that we actually have these meetings where we're not like, we have to get to the next thing, we're dying to do the next thing, like seeing you have those thoughts again and be creative. And I know that's what you got. We talked about it, or Tim mentioned at some point, I think for earlier on, of like Colin and I were like driving Games force behind it when we left. The idea, of course, was that you guys were going to get to go do your projects that weren't that were a viral video every month or the animated series and do this different stuff. And like the animated series happened, it's taken so much longer and so much more work. And we've done it in such a, again, hindsight's 2020. If we could go back and do something different, we would have. But like to get that off your plate here, once we do the, what is it, 13 episodes now? Is that the total?
15 episodes.
15 episodes total because we're doing the three make goods for the things where we fell behind. Getting that off of your plate to where you now have the space to, I want to do something creative. I want to think about what the next seasonal show after Cooking with Greggy is going to be. Yeah. And Tim can do that too.
I think it'd be super fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And then speaking of the animated show, to reiterate once again, we fucked up really bad. We got back on track, and I'm really proud of Nick because we haven't fucked up for the last, I want to say 5 episodes. I think
so. Yeah,
like they've been coming out very reliably, and looking forward. We have a lot of episodes in the pipeline that are almost done or being worked on, and because we fucked up, instead of the 12 that we promised, we're going to do 15 total.
3 extra bonus episodes, which was that was. Actually kind of a blessing for me because I feel like I've hit a stride with them. I'm really enjoying writing them. And so, being able to do it, like getting your guys' blessing and being able to put 3 more out to the audience, I think is super cool. We can have some fun with some of the bonus stuff too. So we have some interesting stuff planned for that. But yeah, a lot of people actually after this last episode, and I think I've said this before, but I will reiterate, Dagan's still working on these episodes. He's just working on every other episode, and we have a couple other studios that are helping out. So Frame Freak Studio, and Stonebot Studio, Frame Freak Studio predominantly, and they're subcontracting out to Stonebot Studio when they need help, are helping to do a lot of these episodes. So you can see there's the people out there that are really paying attention, you can see there's a subtle difference in the animation style. Some's more 3D and Dagan's is a little bit more traditional 2D. Both are really, really cool, but it's just kind of cool to see how they're different workflows. Yeah. And like working with both of them is just totally
And it's
different.
not necessarily every other. It's
So you'll see, like, for instance, we did the 2-part VR episode, right? That was both Frame Freak. And then Dagan did the sex education episode, and then the part 2 of that episode, which was Greggy is scared of sex. Yeah. So you can see the difference in those in those 2 styles and how they.
One of them takes a lot longer, which is why part 2.
That's the other thing later. Too. Is like so that's been, and maybe actually when we're done with the animated series, I'll do a topic on this and like everything I've learned as far as like workflow and things like that, because animation was brand new to me and I had some expectations of it that I think were just very far off, both good and bad. But I think like obviously Dagan's still a one-man shop. He's working out there and on the East Coast, and Frame Freak is down in South America working. I want to say South America, maybe it's Central America. They have a full team though, and they have people they have extra resources they can tap into, and so I think that there's pros and cons to each one of them. But yeah, as far as timing was concerned, I mean, we bit a little bit of the bullet in saying like, look, we just need to subcontract this out, get these done, at a higher cost to us, but it doesn't matter because this is what we promised the audience, and we need to come through. And then artistically, I'm like, I want to finish these episodes. Like, this is a cool challenge for me. But I also think I go back and look at the dodgeball episode, and then I look at I look at the episode that just came out with the Achievement Hunter guys, and I'm like, this feels a lot more like an episode where there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and like I'm playing around a little bit with the South Park, like, hey, this is the lesson we learned at the end of it, right? And so there's a small semblance of theme, a small semblance of storytelling that I just
you're learning as you go.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
and it's fun as a writer. It's a fun challenge. So
good,
it's cool.
Kevin, real quick, did Andy leave?
Yeah.
Please note that he's leaving work early. I don't like that.
He's sick.
He's sick.
So I let him go
work
home
at 5:36 p.m.
Yeah, I don't think that's early. I think that's actually kind of close to when we leave.
No, what's the note say?
It says
Andy does not equal
loyal. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does he
Putting that
equal
out there.
Candy still though?
The jury's out, but I do believe that Andy still equals candy. Sweet, hard rock candy.
Yeah,
Andy.
heads up. I told Andy he could take tomorrow and just stay home.
What's wrong with him?
He's not feeling well.
He got the poops?
I walked in.
I think
he's like
we've
this.
all been. I think I got everyone sick 2 weeks ago by coming in that one day that I was stupidly came in.
Sure.
And then I think everyone's just been gestating. And
You want to know what
me
I
and
think
Andy
happened?
have been giving it to
A
each
lot
other.
of people I see tweeting about how they're sick after Kind of Funny Live 3 today, the weekend.
Too much fucking.
No, not enough
There was a
fucking
lot
for
of
sure.
fucking. There was a lot of fucking.
Was there a lot
going
of
on,
fucking?
KFL.
Was there really?
Oh, there was.
Man, I didn't get laid
I
last
ain't gonna
week.
talk
What the
about
fuck?
I want to hear some of this
There's
offset.
fucking-
You didn't wash your hands enough. You don't. You shake hands. You touch each other. Don't then pick up food and eat the food.
I wash my hands too much,
Also,
man.
don't
That's
eat
why you're not
food.
sick.
Burn.
That's why you're not sick.
Don't eat food that other people are feeding you with their hands, because that happens sometimes too. Take a bite of this, yada yada yada. Boy, man, you're just getting germs.
There was only
blasted
one
into
time
your
where I let it
face.
go at the VIP thing, where Sean Pitts offered me some of his buffalo fries.
Sean Pitts.
And you're like,
Pitts.
and I said, "Are your hands clean?" He said, "Yes." And Kevin's like, "No, they're not." And I was like,
fact.
"I'm starving. I have to believe him today."
Sean Pitts, very sick right now.
Damn it.
Very sick.
It begins.
I mean, he's sick in the head. We all knew that.
Well, we're all sick in the head. That's why I have this haircut.
You want to talk about the survey?
Speaking of the community,
Segue.
segue.
Call him Greg Weiss.
Tim Way.
Survey.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We put this thing out
This is
about a
fascinating.
month and a half ago.
Sure.
My time might be wrong about that because, good Lord, I don't have any sense of time.
Time
anymore.
doesn't matter to us.
But pretty much we
That
were
sounds
like,
right.
we've been reading all of the feedback. We always do. But, I mean, I don't want to say we. I want to try to be as factual about this as possible. I can say without shadow of a doubt, I read as much feedback as humanly possible in all of the different communities. And I think about it, bring it to these guys, discuss what the future of Kind of Funny should be. It's been like that since day one.
Yep.
You know, and everybody has their own different ways that they go about it.
Yeah, I look at Twitter a lot. I look at Reddit quite a bit. I want to say I was talking to Brotherhood today. I pop into the forums for a glance around once a week.
And I understand this all blew up, but just so I can have my side of this whole thing, I look at the forums all the time. Period. All the time. I post in them? Never. Look at them on my phone? All the time. Am I logged in? I don't know. I don't care. What it comes down to is I am reading, and it's,
Okay, I want to pop in on this just to make sure we're clear, because this is when I was talking to Brotherhood today or whatever. He asked me, he's like, I was like, I look in once a month. He's like, well, why don't you post then? Why don't you post if you're in there? And just to say, hey, I see this. And my response was that I've done that before and had it go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, hey, saw this, thank you, or hey, here's my response. And then I don't have time to check in for another week, and I come back and it's 3 more pages of people pulling apart what I said, needing me in the shit in that moment to have a conversation. And that's why I was like, I'm gonna try to do town halls now once a month. I'm gonna try to, if somebody has a huge issue, reach out and talk to this person, because the writing, I'm not a forum person. I'm a 34-year-old man who doesn't want to deal with internet drama. I don't want to be taken out of context that way. You know what I mean? I'd rather get in there and do it that way.
I am a forum person, and what I mean by that is I read forums every day. I'm on NeoGAF every day. I read.
You
Kind of
literally,
Funny
like,
forums
for
every
those of
day.
you, and I can attest to this, Tim reads everything. All the comments on all the videos, Reddit, Facebook, all that stuff. If ever I have a question about anything, I don't even bother logging on to a forum. I just ask Tim, and he's like, no, this is what happened. Because I don't pay attention to a lot of
And
things.
the thing is, it's like, it is a valid question of, when there's things like the birthday, the celebration of the forums, like why didn't you post on it if you knew it was happening? It's like, there's just so much going on, and it's just like, it's not that I'm not proud of you guys, and it's not that any of that. It's just
Yeah,
like
100%. We love everything you do. We respect everything you do. We're thankful for everything you do. But it is the fact of, like, there's only so many hours in the day. Now, that said, back to what I was talking about today, where I'm like, oh, look at the schedule and you can see gaps and stuff. Today, I've been on the forums. I've been on the Facebook group because I've had time in my schedule while I book E3 or wait for the show or do whatever, which is awesome. And I'm not saying it's going to happen every day, everything, but it's like, I think, again, a statement to where we are and where we're going is that, hey, this is kind of chill right now. I can actually get in there and do stuff and not run off the next thing.
And I mean, my thing, and we're kind of jumping around here because the community segment is the fifth question. But I just want to put out there that I read because I can get all the feedback, and there's certain things I do respond to, and it is hard to respond to things when I feel like more often than not, the response to my response is a lot of anger and a lot of things that don't make me feel good.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make me want to respond. When I respond to something and then everybody responds to me like, oh, you only respond to positive things, you don't respond to negative things. It's like, well, all right, well, do you not see the 10 negative things that I responded to and tried to help? And it's just like, then what? I'm going to respond to that saying that? It turns into a thing where I'm like, I'm now wasting my time. Like
it goes back.
Nobody's listening.
It goes back to constructive criticism, right? You can sit there and tell me you don't like the GameOverGreggy show because this topic wasn't well thought out, that you didn't like how I delivered this point, that I said this. Okay, that's all valid, and I'd like to have some kind of conversation with you. Now, will I? I don't know. I'll read it and take it to heart more likely than anything else, right? But if it is, the GameOverGreggy show sucks, period. Well, no, I'm not going to sit there and respond to that.
Yeah, and I think also for me, the reason that I like the Facebook group, for example, is I can just go in and like something, and that is the saying, hey, I saw this. Whereas the forums don't have that, or they do. I don't know. I don't use forums in that way. I just read forums.
Andy just walked into the room. I'm now putting Andy equals loyal.
Oh, okay. You've changed.
Andy hearts his job.
Greg thought you left, so he was giving you shit. I told him that you were sick, so he gave you more shit because he said.
Now you look a lot not sick right now.
Here's what I would love for you to do: go in there, pick one mug, lick it, put it back in the cabinet.
Wait, that's Russian roulette, though. I mean, everybody uses the mugs.
I just want you to know that.
Andy, give me a rundown of your symptoms. What do we got here? Diarrhea?
He's sick. Andy, go home. Stop talking. Go home.
No, I'm waiting for them to transfer to a disc.
Okay.
It's just that feeling in my throat.
He's just that feeling. Oh, you got the itch. You got that little itchy in your throat? Don't get close to Kevin. We need Kevin healthy.
Now, lick part of Kevin.
Ugh.
Here's my thing.
Lick Kevin's mouth.
But my statement on the community, because I don't want this to sound like I'm upset at anything. Although I am upset. I want it clear that I am upset about this stuff, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm just dismissive of it, because I'm absolutely not dismissive. I'm just being honest about the way I consume things. But I understand that other people consume things differently. I grew up on forums. I grew up on the Q&5 forums. I would go to the mega show, Tone Deaf's show, that I've talked about so many times, that influenced Kind of Funny Live. And I would know people there because I knew them from the forums.
Sure.
I didn't post on the forums that much, ever. I just knew the people, and then eventually every once in a while I would start to reply and they would know me, but they knew me more from the Facebook or from other places. I just never posted a lot in the forums. Having said that, whenever Tone Deaf would post in the forums, it was like a freaking celebration. And it was like everybody would be like, oh shit, look what he said, and all eyes on that. And it became such a focused thing. And I remember being on your side of this, where it's like that meant something, that he came in and said something. However, I also know that I scrutinized every fucking thing that motherfucker said. And that's why it scares me, and I do not feel pushed to respond to things because I know how I feel about it, and it's hard to get that across. And I don't know.
No, you make a good point. I think it goes back to what I'm saying, is the fact that for me, if I'm going to comment on something, it's going to be a comment and drop. You know what I mean? Like when I do respond to Reddit on the ride home, like I don't look at Reddit again for 24 hours. And so I've done it before. I'm like, somebody's mad about something I said, and I go back, oh, I'm like, oh, there's a whole thread attached to what I said. I bounced and didn't think twice about it. And we don't want to do that to you in that way.
Yeah. And I appreciate everything that goes on there. It's just, I don't see it the same way as I used to see things when I was in that community. And I feel like I've learned lessons from that community, and that's how I go about things. If you don't agree with that, cool, that's great, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Let's get to the survey.
Let's get to it.
So we put out the survey. There was 8 questions. I want to break that shit down. There was 3,396 total responses.
And we will be reading all 3,096 of those responses
and
right now.
I read all responses to it. And what I'm excited about this went out to all of the different communities and our social push on Twitter and Facebook, like on our channels for that, not just in the groups. And this is representing our Patreons as well. This is representative of the entire Kind of Funny community of people that would respond to us. So of course, this is not taking into consideration the people that didn't have anything to say.
Was this posted in the PSN communities? It's a joke. You can't post
No
that
idea.
DP.
No
you can't
fucking
post a
idea.
link. You can't post a hyperlink.
If you did, if someone did, I'm not sure. But a long time ago, we did a survey in 2015.
Yeah, right after we started, right?
Yep. And I was very focused on just the Patreon users, right? And that obviously has different data than what this is. But this is coming from a time when a lot of people had a lot of issues and we wanted to hear about them. So instead of making things multiple choice or percentage based or number based or whatever, we were just like, it was free form. Here's a question, give your answer. And that was a lot harder to get definitive numbers and data for. But Joey spent a lot of time breaking it down, trying to find trends in words. She would look how many times are certain words used, what are the most common words used. She would then go in and figure out how, in what context they're there. And I also read it all, so I have an idea of
How many times was boy orgy in this survey?
Boy orgy was a lot. There was a lot of joke answers because we taught you motherfuckers well. And we heard them. We heard them very loud and clear. Let's start off with number one. This was the one kind of quantifiable answer.
Yeah.
What shows do you watch? GOG. 77.8% of the people watch GOG.
Yeah.
Gamescast. 67.1%.
Two off.
2 off.
2 points off.
Kind of Funny Morning Show. 68.35%.
Wow, that's
Watch
actually
the
shocking.
Kind of Funny Morning Show. 44% watch Kind of Funny the animated series, and 30% watch other. And they could put whatever they wanted to put in there. The most common to least common responses were P.S. I Love You, Let's Plays, everything, love and sex stuff.
Got it.
So
Gotcha.
cool. There's some there. Interesting little tidbits
That's
about
so
that.
fascinating because like love and sex stuff like gets millions of views. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think that gets outside of.
Yeah, no, totally.
our fan
I understand
base.
why. It's just
not
interesting.
the hardcore people.
Yeah.
They already know it's about communication.
They already know how you're going to answer every question.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about that. It's about the
Talk to your
jokes and the
partner.
fun. Talk to your partner. Communicate.
Here's a funny intro of Nick rubbing a tree.
It's about, to me, the intros are what make those episodes.
My
worth
favorite
it.
thing when we were doing that show was I would walk in the morning and you'd be watching it. And I would just like kind of coyly watch your reaction to it. And occasionally you'd laugh and I'm like, yeah,
I laughed all the time, buddy.
There's a lot of feedback, not necessarily just in the survey, but I've just seen in the various communities about like, oh, their numbers are down across the board, across things. And specifically talking like the morning show on Twitch. Yeah. Keep in mind, that's because we moved it over to the YouTube channel and iTunes,
podcasts.
and those numbers are doing great, specifically the iTunes numbers. So that's
But
just,
keep in mind, too, our numbers are down.
and then overall, the numbers are down.
Yeah, I don't want somebody to pick you apart of
Sorry,
like,
thank
whoa.
you. Yeah.
No,
Well, I'm
like-
saying about the morning show specifically, like
Gotcha.
there's a clear reason why the numbers are where they're at. The Twitch numbers haven't dropped too much for the morning show on Twitch in the last 2 months.
Yeah, well, I see. You mean.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
now I'm with you. I was going to say, well, people compare them all. Now you make up.
But yeah. But I
100%
mean,
correct.
like,
You're correct.
every other show, everything is down, but we're trying to build and get that momentum back. And
I'm
go
not ashamed
forward.
of that. You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
like to do that all the time or whatever. I'm like, oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's true. It's a real quantifiable statistic you can look at.
Which is why we're trying to make all these fixes. 2, what do you want from Kind of Funny Games? There was 3,112 responses to this one. A lot of people, 111 times. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to do these in order.
Okay.
668 is the most. People want Let's Plays. Fun Let's Plays.
You're getting
No pressure, Candy Annie. Maybe she can go home sick. Maybe she'd edit some Let's Play.
Talking about the vibe of hanging out on the couch like it used to be in the old days.
Good.
Things like that kept getting brought up.
You
Party
gotcha.
mode.
Party mode. We got
We're
you.
making that happen, and that's going to be awesome. Next up, 189 times, Xbox. They want Xbox coverage. Ryan McCaffrey gets brought up a lot. I mean, my thing with that is we're going to cover it in the broader sense.
Sure.
But it's not going to be what I think a lot of people are talking about. Like, they want a PS I Love You equivalent for Xbox.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, like, I think Xbox obviously will come up, especially as we run into Scorpio here in Kind of Funny Games Daily in Gamescast. But I mean, we'll be there, do it. We'll, have all that different stuff. I'm working on some cool collaborations with Xbox, trying to get some things off the ground for down the line. But yeah, there's not going to be Xbox I Love You.
Andy is a big Xbox guy. I mean, Andy's he plays everything, right?
You play the ukulele? Go home. You're not even laughing at the jokes. You're sick. You're
He just
sick.
Smiles.
Oh, the game ukulele.
No, I meant the ukulele, the instrument. Yeah, the uke. Oh, the uke, as you call it.
Oh, the old uke. I don't really know exactly where Andrea and Danny lie when it comes to like
Andrea
their
loves dorky ass
fanboyism.
fucking games like Paragon
and all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
shit. But anyways,
Danny likes Irish things.
yeah. So we'll have to figure that out.
shout out to his shillelagh.
Oh, my shillelagh.
Interview Greg Miller interviews. A lot of 121 responses talking about that in various forms.
If I can be honest, 100%, like I've said it before, I think when I do those bonus episodes, that's what I miss the most in terms of like what does Kind of Funny not give me that IGN used to? It is the interviews, because I had those up at news things. So that is, like we've talked about, like I'm not even beating around the bush, right? Like we think that could be a show. We want to massage that into a real thing rather than do what we've done before, where, hey, we're not ready, but here's an announcement. Like, no, we'll work on that and stew on that and make a thing about it. Maybe it'll be, maybe that can be the next limited run show after we go with Greggy.
I love that idea. And then finally, the most common thing was with 111 responses, reviews, in-depth reviews. If I'm being honest, I don't see it happening. I don't see reviews being any more in-depth than they currently are. I think that once in a while, like Uncharted 4 was an example, there will be a game that we all, or Zelda is another example.
What are they saying that all of us, that we're all into? Or okay.
Well, I mean, I think that whether or not, I just don't think that our shows give a good place to do that. We used to do the Kind of Funny reacts, and even then they were very rare, where it was more
like when I did the Metal Gear one and stuff like that.
And I think that it'll be at about that pace.
Kind of Funny.
They will continue.
For me, when I think about Kind of Funny, it's about hanging out with your best friends, as I've said, and it's also about your passions. And I think that when we're passionate about a game, you know what I mean? There's going to be coverage out your ass about it. You know, we didn't, Friday the 13th, we put up that Let's Play, right? Because I was like, I like this game so much, and the way Gamescast is shaking out because of whatever event was coming up. Kind of Funny Live. We're not going to get a chance to talk about this in a timely fashion. So let's do this Let's Play. Let's have this up and let's talk about it there, right? And I think there'll be those times where I finish a game and I want to talk about it in a reviewy fashion, but you're not going to get scores. You're not going to get Easy Ally reviews. You're not going to get
absolutely.
That kind of
and I think that really what it comes down to is there's other places that do it better than us.
Yeah.
And in our current iteration, we cannot do that. Yeah. And us competing with them would be silly.
Sure.
So
good point.
Especially with how Easy Allies does it specifically. Like I love that it's Brandon Jones doing the voice, and it's very much like game trailers used to be. And they got 9 people that have very different viewpoints on games, and they are critical in that way.
Yeah.
It's not who we are. When it comes to that, we're more critical of the news and of the announcements and the industry and things like that.
Sure.
So that was Kind of Funny Games.
And Vita.
And Vita, yes. What do you want from Kind of Funny? 2,852 responses on this one. 568 times people talked about a movie show. They want movies.
They want movies.
And we talked about this with the morning show. I think that that's kind of our answer to that, to dabble into it and see what a movie show could be in segments of that nature.
Yeah.
So that is exciting.
It's fun.
Then next up with 273 responses, a comic show.
Yeah.
So there we go. That is
Spider-Man.
Morph.
119 times Cooking with Greggy.
Yay!
You're getting that, ladies.
There we go. There we go. That's actually happening.
Sex with Kevin is the next one.
Oh, I missed this one. This was more times. Love and Sex Stuff with 169.
Bullshit. Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can't lie with the facts, man.
Yeah, people like Love it. Like the people that like it, and that's the thing is it'll be back.
I'm saying the 69.
There's no plan though for it to come. No scheduled plan for it to
it'll
come
back.
But yeah, it'll come back in some iteration for sure. 93 times shorts or sketches. Obviously, passion of ours. We want to make it happen.
We definitely want to make that happen.
No plan to make it happen, although having Andy here has been very inspirational
to say the least.
Pushing things, just getting them through, at least without that part, at least starting to jerk it off.
Yeah,
he's starting the slow jerk.
We're just playing with the
force in the first downswing, or about here
of the slow jerk. Yeah,
or about here.
Exactly. Doodles, 83 people. They're coming back. So there you go. So we're kind of nailing it on the Kind of Funny side.
Sure.
Pretty happy about that. 4, what could Kind of Funny games improve on? The number 1 thing was time sensitivity and being out of date.
We got you, boo. We got you, boo.
So for now, Kind of Funny Games Daily, you cannot get more topical and timely than that. And Gamescast, we are addressing the issues of the topic by topic by putting them out as one video and recording it later. So recording Thursday, Patreon Friday, on time for everyone Monday.
Yeah.
And all of this, work in progress. If we need to change anything, we're going to try to figure it out later.
We want your feedback.
What could Kind of Funny games improve on? Half are saying too many guests. Half are saying they love the guests.
I feel like Andrea and Danny anchoring as hosts works, right? And the fact that, all right, cool, there'll be a repertoire, there'll be callbacks, we're going to have our own inside jokes there. So I think Kind of Funny Games Daily dodged that bullet. Guests for, in general, the game's cast, I do feel like now that we're through the initial run, rather than keep going, I mean, we're going to keep going down. I know I've seen the people want, and I know we're going to get to that, of people who you want on the show and stuff like that. I do think you'll start seeing returning guests there, though, too, though. So it's not awkward or strange that that's happened. Similar to how Podcast Beyond's ever rotating third chair. I eventually started rotating between like 7 people.
Yeah. And I mean, well, the funny thing here is, I mean, with it being half and half, like making one side happy.
Sure. Great point.
There's no right answer, wrong answer with this. But I mean, I truly believe that guests are the right answer because they solve so many other problems people have. Different perspectives on the shows and stuff like that.
They always agree with each other.
I agree that guests on Gamescast, as it were never great.
I disagree. I think we had great guests.
Were never great because they didn't fit the format of the show. They were great when the Gamescast was about them. You know, it's just like there was a lot of times where it would be hard to figure out 4 topics that this person can talk about with us, right? It was a strain. But I think that with the new format of Gamescast, anybody that is in the industry can jump in and already have some type of repertoire with us. Next up, we got community. There's a lot of stuff here. Better communication.
What was the question? What can the community?
How can Kind of Funny improve the community?
Gotcha.
Better communication and more updates are
we're working on
the number one.
Yeah.
And totally agree. Totally understand. We will never successfully be perfect at that. You know, and I think that, that's the point. I mean, that's what a relationship is. It's about communication. Yeah. But I think that it's important that we keep trying and that we keep trying to find ways to be better. That
was the takeaway from everything that happened recently, right? In terms of like how we came back and everybody was angry and trying to do it in the town halls and all this different stuff of like, I'm more inspired than ever to make this work and figure out how we make it do and come and talk to the people more often and not do a show like this every time, but whether it be the town hall, whether it be, I have time, let's jump into the comments, let's do this, or the forums or Reddit or whatever.
I mean, our solution to that, because we know it's an issue and we've known it's an issue, was hiring Joey.
Yeah.
I remember it was around last October when things got really bad in the different communities. And what's hard about this is we say this as if it's the entire community, and it's not. It's just these very focused little branches of the community were having issues and they all got upset, and like that shit happens.
Yeah.
And I feel like we hired Joey as a response to that.
And Joey's had so many great ideas that we need to enact, but it's like right now, again,
Joey got pulled away in a direction that we didn't want her or expect her to, but needed her to.
And as I feel that we're getting on track now and on this precipice, again, I feel like we can start actually capitalizing and making those gains that she wants to make.
Absolutely. And more updates. Yep. Totally get it. And we've been trying to be better about that.
Yeah.
I feel like that whenever we've known that a morning show wasn't going to happen, we've tried to get that information out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
The next thing is be more active on Reddit/Facebook/forums. Honestly, this is just my hard stance on this. I don't think we should ever promise that because I feel like I'm going to be because I want to be, but there's no guarantee that any of us will be in any of those places.
That's a tough one, and I'm the biggest defender of this, right? Like I just don't do that. I don't gravitate toward that. It's not my passion. It's not that I don't want to interact with the community, but I always think to myself, I've got to spare 5 minutes. How can I make more content? Like that's what I always, or how can I take care of the taxes or the fucking something else, right? But like I just don't default to that. I'm not a person that like I sometimes I look at the comments, things like that. So I've tried to be better about it, but it's difficult, right? It's not something that I necessarily like gravitate toward doing on a normal basis. So I don't know. I mean,
I think there's other ways to tackle it, and I hope being more transparent or doing a town hall or whatever gives us a chance to do that kind of thing. And I also, I urge so many of you, and I know this sounds terrible. Stick with me. The town hall, free, talking to us, hoping we chime in. Twitter fine. Also, so many of you are at that point on Patreon, that $15 and up level for that Q&A that don't like there's so many people who give us more than enough money to go in and post a real question there. Like feel free to put a hard-hitting question, something you really want to answer there, because every question that gets posted on Patreon we answer.
We give an answer to. I mean, yeah, my last AMA, the first question I started off with was a really hard call-in question.
Yeah.
And I gave a real answer to it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, definitely. That's a
But
thing.
I am not telling you that you have to pay us to get your answer. Don't try to take it out of context. I know. I'm just saying.
For sure. But my thing is, and I know that I'm making a hard stance that makes it sound like I'm not going to be this. Having said that, like I literally post in the Facebook group almost every day. Not every day, but almost every day, no matter how busy I'm. In fact, when I'm busiest, I'm going to post the most. Have you noticed?
Procrastination.
That whenever I'm like, yeah, it's procrastination. It's like when I'm planning Kind of Funny Live, I'm like, oh, I'm all up in that motherfucker, right? Yeah. But I'm always, I like contributing. I like being there and I just being able to just kind of snipe in and say something. I don't know how appreciated it is. And I want to be there for everybody. I like Reddit too, because I feel like Reddit moves at a pace that I can keep up with. I can look at every post every day. And like the amount of times I've looked at Reddit and been like, looked at it all, been in the shower and been like, I'm gonna respond to all those later. And then I don't respond to it.
Do. Yeah, I know. I've been there.
But that happens all the time. And then there's so many times with the forums as well. I don't know. The forums are something we need to figure out. I understand that. There is a real issue with it, and I think that there's a huge perspective on it that is correct, that there are, so we should focus on them more. I just don't agree with that. Like we made them to be for the community, and they took it and ran with it in a way that we didn't expect them to, and I fucking love it. Yeah. But I look at the forums in the same way I look at the Reddit or the Facebook as just another awesome community of people that want to hang out with each other. So
I go back to what I said in the town hall over and over, right? Is I just think it was, again, we didn't manage expectations. Where I think for 100%, the forums we had been told by advisors like, oh, you should have forums, you should do this. I'm like, yeah, of course. Well, we have this great community and we want them all to hang out in one spot and talk about one thing. We launched the forums, and then it was like we went in and let's just, hey, here's all the names that have registered that we recognize. They're all mods. All right. Let's go back to making content. You know what I mean? We didn't sit there with any structure for what we thought it was going to be and what it has been. The people that flocked to the forums and stayed on the forums have made the forum something incredibly special and different in their own.
I would argue a different way where we gave it as much structure as we wanted to give it, which was not enough.
But I'm saying managing expectations.
But we didn't say not enough for them which is good. Like they took it and ran with it and turned it into a real thing. We made a freaking fake play thing.
Sure. I hear you. But again, I think it's that other two sides of the mirror, the coin or whatever, where it's like, to us, it was crystal clear. We're not really on these things. It's for you guys. And for them, it was, hey, everybody, we built this for you. Or, hey, Kind of Funny, we built this for you. Come back and hang out with us. And we're like, no, we don't like forums. It's not really who we are. You know what I mean? And like, I understand why that rubs people the wrong way and why there is this not fracture between everybody, but why. And then of course we're quiet and we don't do this. And like I say, I pop in, I say something, and this is a long time ago. I leave, come back. It's fucking out of proportion. Everybody's crazy. I'm like, fuck. Yeah. Don't know how to make this better. We're working on it. We're trying. We're working with you. I hope we're trying to talk
absolutely
more.
And it's just like I moving forward on this.
It's an ongoing issue.
It is.
Communication.
So, communication. Yeah. Listen to criticism and don't just dismiss things as a vocal minority. Very, very valid feedback. And I do feel like there's a lot of times that we boil things down to, the vocal, if it's not something we agree with, it's the vocal minority. And I think that it comes off that way, but I don't think that's what we mean. And I think that the problem is we go through so much off camera that we either talk about or don't talk about, whatever it is, that when we come on, we're kind of just trying to boil everything down into as condensed a message as possible. Yeah. Right. So we just boiled out, it's a vocal minority, even though we've had a conversation. We understand where all the different factions are or whatever. I say this as we're an hour and 40 minutes into this conversation.
Boil it down.
But I mean, no, it's like that's the truth though, is that we see this stuff and seeing this survey, which is this by definition, these are the vocal minority.
Yeah.
Right, because like these are the people 100%. Actually
sure, but there's a difference between like, I mean, that's the thing. It's a murky term, right? Like if there were a cut and dry, if you could look and someone's like name on the forums or on Reddit and it said vocal minority, you're like, oh cool, that guy's a vocal minority. It's not.
Yeah,
we don't know, so we're doing the best we can with this stuff. You know?
What to your point? Just is stress it another way is the fact that like when I talk about the vocal minority, when I talk about the people who are being haters on Reddit, when I talk about this, I'm not talking most likely about you who comes in and says you don't like this and you don't like that. I'm talking about the people who are literally like, fuck Tim.
Yep. Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's who I'm talking about, not you.
Between people who are giving legitimate constructive criticism and feedback versus people who are just spewing hate.
Assholes. And so like that's honestly, the thing. And then when we talk about it, we say vocal minority and people are like, well, I'm criticizing your show.
I issue a challenge to us to just not use the term. I think that we can find ways to explain what we mean in a more accurate way without saying that, because I think that it does upset a lot of people that think we're trying to silence criticism when we're not. Because it's the same thing as like when you lump people into like social justice warrior, right? Like when you lump people, they don't want to fucking be that. They're like, fuck that. No. I have real thoughts, but I don't want to be that, right? And it's like it turns into this political thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the vocal minority is a very similar thing where it's like the people that don't agree with us or have criticism of us feel like we're calling them vocal minority, and they're like, I'm not a hater. I'm not that at all.
Exactly,
but also what a lot of people have to understand is when you make content, when you create things, more often than not, if someone posts a content, it's because they like people are more likely to post the content because they don't like something versus like actually going, I liked that thing, I'm going to say a nice
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's where this all stems from,
that's
right?
where this stems
I
from.
used to talk about the overwhelming majority, silent majority, watches your content and bounces.
Right.
And then it's my fault, honestly. And then there's this vocal minority that posts on your comment and is a hater, is what I used to say, right? In reality, there is a vocal minority that posts, period.
Yep.
And that's the thing. So when you start saying vocal minority, it sounds like you're saying it's a synonym for hater.
Yep.
Sure.
Synonymous. That's what I was looking for. That's going to drive me crazy.
And that's, I really do think that like we've doubled down on that because we've been attacked so much recently, more than ever.
Sure.
And it like we're being attacked by people that have been our biggest supporters. And a lot of people are giving us constructive criticism, but a lot of people are attacking us. And it's really easy to lump that all together and be like, I'm listening to all this, but haters gonna hate. You know, it is easy to do that, but it's also very hard to deal with all of this stuff.
Sure.
But to listen to criticism / don't just dismiss. I hope that all of this is proof that we are listening.
We're
to
not
criticism,
dismissing. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We are looking at all of this, and
more often than not, we agree with your criticism, and we're trying to get to that point
but
to fix it.
The other side of that to keep in mind is there's times that we don't agree with the criticism, and just because we're not listening to you or reacting to what you want doesn't mean that we're not listening. We'll hear it out and be like, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
you know,
X, Y, and Z reasons, right?
But again, I think more often than not, based on what the changes we've made, we are listening and we are reacting to the people that we know want it the most. We know that every single person that replied to this survey,
We know you want it.
cares
we
about us.
see it.
you want
They care enough to take time and write what they want from us. And like I said, I read all these. I appreciate it, and we are listening to them all.
Yeah.
Moving forward, more multiplayer streams.
Oh, streams. So I said, oh, you mean like community streams?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're working on it.
yeah. But I mean, even that, I personally, I don't want to say that. Like, I don't think we should.
I mean, like,
commit
I'm
to
trying to
that.
get this Friday the 13th thing going. You know what I mean? Like, to that
it's
level.
Just, that's the type of
We're
stuff
not.
that it's.
I mean, back to the thing is like we're not streamers.
Yeah.
We stream our content, but we're YouTube people, and we're not even Let's Players for the most part. Like, I think we understand that you want that, but there again are people who do it better. Like even the BF group, and they do it all there. We want to play more games with you, but I have such a struggle finding a game I want to play in a multiplayer thing.
Yeah.
When they strike us like Friday 13th, we'll do it.
Another thing that comes out a lot is less singling out of specific members of the community.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this yet. But
Sure. So yeah, the idea is to democratize that more. So for the Kind of Funny Morning Show, we're moving PS I Love This Best Friend XOXO over there. There'll be a Google form because I want it to be anonymous and not be seen. You can go in and submit, hey, I am submitting this best friend for this reason. That's the thing. So that at every show, 5 times a week, you get the chance to say, hey, and this person is doing this in Discord that we would never fucking know about, or this person's doing that over there. You know what I mean? We want to do that. And we want to reward those people. And we want to take care of everybody. We want to single out more people, but also not to take away from the people we do single out being awesome. They get singled out because they're awesome.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to do, but I could also see that being like a little bit murky as well, because what happens if, over the span of 2 months, it's the same 15 people being singled out?
Well, I mean, hopefully we're on ball of not making that happen.
No, I'm not saying for us. I'm just saying like that. So that's something we just got to pay attention to.
Oh, well,
right?
yeah. I mean, again, we'll learn and go as we go, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried. There's so many people out in the communities that are doing stuff that I don't even know. I don't know their names. There's so many people I know their names. I don't know what they do. I just know them as community members.
Well, it's like, Lauren gave us the Extra Life video, right? And then I was like, well, who all worked on this? And like 30 people. She gave me like, Jesus Christ. All right, cool.
Exactly. And it's like, I know a whole bunch of community members that aren't doing something. They're not mods. They're not whatever, but just people that are like really positive forces in the Facebook group. And it's just like, cool. That's a shout out right there.
Big Brad.
Being able to pick,
Big old Brad.
Big Brad Murphy, yeah. But again, I don't know if he is a mod or not, right? Like, there's just people
yeah.
that I'm not aware of who's doing what, and this is, I think, a way to educate us and
100%.
give thanks to them. But yeah, I also think that there is the other side that I want to bring up. Like, we bring up Zyger more than anybody in the community.
Because he's got a really funny name and he's fun to make fun of.
Yeah, it's Zyger. Zyger's just become a character in our content, and I think that it's. I understand that people think that they deserve to be respected in that way, and it's not that we don't respect you. It's just that like Zyger is kind of like what Kevin was. Like he's just a name that we can throw out as a scapegoat for the joke, you know? And
he's also been there since the beginning.
Exactly.
Zyger's like one of the first names I ever remember from my twitch.tv/GameOverGreggy show. You know what I mean? Or channel. Jesus, I can't even say it. But when I was streaming games, when nobody was watching, like, you know what I mean? He was there.
And
talking
Zyger,
about criminal girls being a total perv.
Because he's been everywhere, and a lot of people throw around
Equate that to money. Yeah.
Oh, if I throw thousands of dollars to be able to see you at every group, then I'll get called out. It's like, okay, well, first off, yes, because we'll know who you are, but that's not why. You know, it's just by default, we literally know Zyger because he's everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
But he's everywhere online too, right? Yeah,
but what sucks for me is seeing all the hate towards Zyger because of this, because of the fact that we call his name out. So many people are just so mean to him. And it's like, that sucks. I saw him at Kind of Funny Live. I was like, I apologize, man. And he has become a personality on the internet. And that comes with a lot of good and bad.
Yep.
So
basically, Zyger, go into hiding, change your name.
Yeah, exactly. Designate a centralized hub for community. Lots of people are asking to pick Facebook. A lot of people asking to pick the forums. A lot of people asking to pick Reddit.
That's the problem.
Your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And people would say, well, it's on you and you ran the forums. It's 2017. The way I see it is social media has changed things. Dedicated websites are no longer the central hub. IGN is a perfect example of that. IGN is just one part of a giant machine where their YouTube is just as important as their Facebook, is just as important as their Snapchat and their Twitter and all that, both from a content and from a community perspective. And I think that we work that way. I feel like
we've talked about it, and I know Joey's got some ideas about, we can find a centralized place to make announcements, but then it's up to those different forums to use it, whether it's the forum, Reddit, Facebook. You know what I mean? Of like, hey, this has happened, so we're posting it here. But I do. And it's also for me, and I don't know about anybody else, the naivete of how all of this works and not understanding it. Because I mean, a great example was like the thread about one of the arguments in the community, right? And we didn't respect. It was on the forums. It started. It started on Reddit. There was a forum thread about it, and then it made its way to Facebook. And people from Kind of Funny chimed in on Facebook, right? But didn't go back to chime in on the others, right? And people were upset about that. And I was legitimately like, what does it matter? The message got to where it is. You're talking in all these groups. And somebody had to sit down and be, well, like, I don't use the Facebook group and I'm not a member of the Facebook group, so I can't see what's happening in the Facebook group. And I don't use Facebook. And I was like, oh, that's a great, I know that to you sounds probably the simplest thing. I never would have thought about it because I'm not walking a mile in your shoes.
One of the big responses I wrote on Reddit to one of the many moments was I wrote it and I was like, should I copy and paste this in the other places? And then I stopped because I'm like, this is just a disaster. This is crazy and we need to figure this out. And I agree with this. There should be a centralized hub or no centralized hub. And I think the problem is people think that there's a centralized hub and there's not.
Yeah.
So
maybe it can be town halls. Maybe it can be something else. We'll figure it out. We'll work on it.
I mean, I'd hope that we can get to a point that it's kindoffunny.com where you go and just see all the news updates. So it doesn't need to be delivered in other places. Sure. That is just the only place that's officially.
Can we have a widget where we count how many times Nick goes to the bathroom in a day?
No, we can't. That sounds like a lot of work.
You're getting up to about number 6 in about 2 minutes.
Question 6. If you're a Patreon supporter, what would you like to see more of on the platform? If not, what would convince you to become a Patreon supporter?
Please tell me there's like 20 responses of bongos.
Good goddamn Lord, bongos. We're all over this thing.
We gave them what they wanted at Kind of Funny Live.
Bongos,
a lot of people really wanted bongos.
Sick fuckers.
No joke. So many people wanted Andy, just more Andy in general. Everybody.
Sure. Candy Andy.
Like, not everybody. The majority of people that give responses seem to really love Andy. So that's fantastic because we love him too. Increased content on Kind of Funny Games is the number one.
Okay.
Working on it.
We did.
Done. Yeah. Party mode, games daily, new games cast, and occasional Kind of Funny plays.
Sure.
I feel really good about that content lineup. Behind the scenes content. Very cool. We're not there yet. We've dabbled in it a bit. And now that we have Andy, and when Joey's here in the office, which is very rare, but when she is, I feel like we get closer and closer to being able 100%. To doing that type of content. And we would love to. So
also, most of the time, what you're going to see is just us not talking to each other and just answering emails. But we have some fun.
Today I read erotic fiction about us.
You did? That was super fun. That would have been great behind the scenes.
It got really too detailed.
Really got explicit.
So nasty.
Explicit.
Different content versus more of the same content. So less just podcasts and more different things. We're directly trying to do that with Doodles and Cooking with Greggy.
Hey,
and
let's
whatever
do
comes from there.
seasonal runs of things that they have an end. That's
Mm-hmm.
what you talked about earlier. Because when we frame something that way, we can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, how are we going to make Cooking with Greggy go on indefinitely? That you can't do.
Yeah.
A big note, though, is that the majority of people are pleased with their Patreon perks. The Patreon thing was the one thing
Thank
these were the things where like, oh, this is how it would be better. And I would sign up if there was more games content. So cool. People seem to be happy with Patreon, which is awesome. 7, it was ad reads. How could we improve ad reads?
Does anybody mention a story about a guy looking at his watch shooting?
That didn't happen yet. Note number 1,
did it again today.
majority of the people are fine with them. So that is an interesting.
Because I was thinking about
Ad reads.
Ads.
They're happy with the ad reads.
Got it. Okay.
Or they're
Majority
fine
of
with
people
them.
are happy with ad reads. Important thing to point out, because a lot of people think that they are in the majority of that when, according to this survey, they are not. I understand ads aren't fun. You don't want to hear ads. You don't like ads. Totally get it. We need the ads.
That's the business
we
model,
need the
right?
ads. We need the Patreon. We need the money, not so that we can be fucking fat cats and drive cool cars. Although I do drive a really cool car.
You do drive.
Okay, to drive that down, you drive a
Prius
You drive a Prius C.
super fucking cool car. But especially now that we have the crew that we do.
Yeah.
And
the fact we want to bring on Joey full time, the fact that we want to do these different things.
Well, we have Joey, we have my brother, we have Kevin, we have Andy. In addition to that, we have to pay Andrea and Danny.
And we pay the people who do the cartoon and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's so
lot of
much
contractors.
money that goes
Yeah.
around everywhere, and like we're using this to build this to continue. Kind of funny being fucking out. We pay to have to go down to E3
Yeah.
and pay for space there so that we can make.
And
the
I would
content
hope
there.
people see that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And again, the majority see that. I understand. But like that's the comment that hurts the most, I think. When somebody's like, they're just taking the money and running. I'm like, oh, man.
Like, I'd hope that you see it
Man.
in the content.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the thing is, going back to the ads, you're right. Like we get it. Ads are not fun to listen to or watch. We try our best to make them fun. Here's where it gets complicated. A lot of people like them, make them as short as possible and just get through them. Then a lot of people like, oh, have fun with them. And we try to do both, obviously. But it's hard because then you're displeasing one group and not the other or whatever. There's been a lot of changes with ads over the last couple of years, and it's been based on your feedback. The thing with ads is how it works is I work with Rooster Teeth to sell the content. Then they tell us what we need to do. I tell them, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. Here's the rules, whatever. We go back and forth, and then they sell for a certain amount of time. We do like maybe 4 to 6 times a year meetings where it's like, how's this working? How can we change it? Whatever. And I bring all the feedback of like, all right, they want it shorter. Oh, they want it in the beginning and middle of this, though. All this stuff that you guys talk about, it happens, but we can't make those changes until that
Sold
next
through.
2 months period or whatever, because we sold a specific thing and we've been trying to get better and better. And I feel like we have. Whenever there's times when we see like, there's way too many ads on this, we know, we're well aware. And it's an immediate phone call of me being like, hey, how soon is this process ending? We want to change how we're doing this, whatever. And it takes a little bit of time to change all of that, but we adapt with it.
So I hope the credit of what people are saying there, and to your credit too. I think what we've had working recently is, hey, before the show, here's a scripted ad read that I'll add in about the shoe or whatever, sure, but it's still short and it's done and it's punchy and it's out.
Yep.
Whereas the morning show, which is shenanigans and is being long-winded, yeah, I'll tell a stupid story or we get off track or whatever.
Exactly. And then there's a lot of people that are like, oh, just put them in the beginning so they can get out of the way. And there's a lot of people that are like, put it in the middle so that we can just get into the content in the beginning. And it's hard because there's no right answer.
Sure.
So I think that what we're going to do now is a bunch of our different content's going to have different strategies and we'll adapt from there. GameOverGreggy show is going to have the before the show, like we've been doing with the ad read.
Oh, shoe?
Gamescast is going to, we're going to try to just put the ad in the middle. But if the things are in the middle, in the beginning, there needs to be like a quick shot of, hey, this is brought to you by this, find out more later. That doesn't work for everything. So we're going to try that. And we can't, a lot of people are like, oh, you should just move the ads to the end of the shows. People won't buy that. The advertisers don't want things that are just at the end. I'm trying to find a way to do a quick one in the beginning and one at the end.
Doesn't RT do that on some of the podcasts?
For some of the shows, but
Hey,
not
this
for
is-
podcasts.
okay,
it's
my
for the
apologies,
smaller
my
shows. So things like Party Mode, we'll probably see that.
When it's time to party, we will party hard.
And then the other thing is a lot of people are like, you should remove ads for Patreon supporters. We're doing that. We finally have the infrastructure to make that happen, and we're going to because we understand. So there's a lot of changes with ads. There have been a lot of changes. There will continue to be more
Always
changes.
evolving, always
we appreciate
changing.
your
We
patience,
listen.
and they are very,
We
very,
laugh.
very important to our business. Finally, guests.
No more, they said.
No more guests. No,
They said I don't want anybody on this fucking show.
What guests do you guys want to see on Kind of Funny or Kind of Funny Games? We're not counting Danny or Andrea because
These are all people who are out of the regular.
Yeah, well, not all of them. Some of them have been on before, but like Danny and Andrea, obviously,
They're regulars. Now,
Yes.
and they were always requested on Twitter.
Yeah. So we got coming in at number 1, Brian Altano.
Oh,
Yeah.
the man who loves Kind of Funny so much he bailed on Kind of Funny Live 3.
Not his fault.
I know he's coming
Not
back from
his fault.
Japan.
I was flying from Japan. But yeah, Altano. Obviously, we love Altano. I can't imagine we're not going to work with him.
Sure.
A lot in the future. I want him on Gamescast. I don't think we've ever had him.
Okay,
At
I
least
can
not
book
a
him.
week I've been on. Number 2, coming in super high, Funhouse. A lot of Funhouse fans out there.
Can we get Bruce? Adam sucks.
Yeah, we can get Bruce.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we can get Bruce. I want to get Elise. I feel like that'll be a big. The fans like Elise a lot.
They do like Alicia.
She's great.
Yeah.
Number 3, Marty Sleva.
Oh, he's been through recently.
Let's get this Marty started.
When the sound of Marty, we will Marty hard. Marty hard.
Next up, we got Rooster Teeth.
Okay.
Just in general,
A blanket statement.
A blanket
Okay.
Rooster Teeth, but a lot of
like
votes.
300
A
We
lot
had
of
Bernie
votes for
Burns
them.
on the morning show today.
And then
Call him.
he did. It was a whole.
He loved it.
fucking
Bernie had a great time.
Yeah, Bernie,
He said we could sell a knockoff our t-shirt.
Next up,
Fantastic.
we got Phil Spencer.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Phil Spencer definitely different on this list. compared to
Everyone
everyone
tweet
else.
at Phil Spencer and ask him nicely to come on the show because I have been trying. And man, let me tell you, I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to his people, but he's always got an excuse. His people.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think it's because I'm such good friends with Shuhei Yoshida.
That's possible. But how friendships are made, Greg? By podcasting.
Ryan McCaffrey, very high on the list.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get him at some
Well,
point. as
remember,
well.
right now on the table, we have him and Dornbush 2-for-1 deal to pair. That has
Right.
been offered.
You're right.
We are offering the fan.
Achievement Hunter, next up. Easy Allies, very close to them.
Yeah.
I guarantee we'll get Easy Allies on Gamescast coming up. Game Grumps, right behind that. I'd love to
grumpy.
get Game Grumps
Too
for
grumpy.
some party mode. That'd be
Okay.
fun. And then after that, Boogie.
Oh,
Very
Boogie.
requested.
I love Boogie.
Giant Bomb,
Okay.
under Boogie. Damon Hatfield,
He's a cat, yeah.
under that. And then Ryan Clements.
Ah,
Rounding out the
Clements.
list down there.
I'd love to have him on.
Yeah,
It's
but we
never going to
can't-
happen.
yeah,
It's
'cause-
never going to happen.
Because he works at PlayStation, he's
Yeah.
not allowed to talk about stuff.
He could come on to talk about a PlayStation thing. But even then, if the PlayStation blog was doing something, he could probably come on and talk about it. But I
Yeah.
don't think that we got to jump through a lot of hoops to get him in.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Obviously, all those are people that we either have or want to or will work with.
Sure.
So that's great. We totally agree. An interesting thing to point out there is, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I fucking hate Rooster Teeth and whatever. As you see, there's a lot of people that love Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
Us included.
Yeah.
And Funhouse as well and all of them. But you're right, Adam does kind of suck.
Yeah,
But besides Adam, everyone's great.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, man. The future
Kinda
is going to
fun.
be really fun.
I'm telling you, like, I'm super, super happy with everything we've done, everything we've announced, the way I feel coming into work, the way I feel in these meetings, the way I feel leading into E3, the way I felt the Kind of Funny Live, what we have coming, the ideas we have coming. I think it's great. And I think this has all been the town hall, the feedback from you, everything we went through as a community with Colin. Like, I feel like we're solidified. We've been tempered to an extent.
Exactly. And one piece of feedback from the community that I want to address before we go is Kind of Funny Live in general. They're going into it. There was a lot of chatter in the different groups of why are they doing this? Why are they focusing and spending months planning one night that only a small percentage of the audience gets to participate in? And it just doesn't make sense. And in addition to the why are they holding all the announcements for that? And the answer is Kind of Funny Live is extremely important to us, both as personalities and for what we do and as a business. Kind of Funny Live is the thing that sets us apart from everyone else. And when companies look at that and see that, and when collaborators see that, like when Harley from Epic Mealtime or Max Landis or whatever,
Sure.
see Kind of Funny Live, whether it's just on Twitter and seeing everybody have such a great time, that's when they're like, holy shit, Kind of Funny's community is awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of Funny can do crazy spectacle things, and it makes them believe in our normal content in a totally different way.
Sure.
It gets us buy-in that's super important for us to keep growing and keep doing different things.
For me, if that's all true. For me, it's about solidifying the community again.
And that's on the personal side where
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, it fucking motivates me. It motivates us where we're like seeing the energy and seeing the people that really care about what we do and have found best friends in the community that can girlfriends, boyfriends, fiancés, whatever, found these connections in the community. It's like, oh shit, what we're doing is working. we need to keep doing it. This is important. And every moment that we put into Kind of Funny Live is because we care about Kind of Funny so much.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to be around that influence and not even, as I talked about in my speech there when I started the show, right? That's what it's all about. And I don't mean just those people in the room. I mean everybody who wants to watch it later on demand, who's not at home watching clips, who's at home just chilling out thinking positive thoughts about it. That's what Kind of Funny Live is, right? That's what Kind of Funny is. It's best friends being there for each other. So to see, as soon as people started landing on Tuesday and putting out the thing of like, man, like I feel like I'm home and I'm being reunited and blah, 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 like that's what it's all about. When we lose sight of that, it's the same way like I'm talking about with all the stupid forum Reddit. Well, when I say forum, I mean it all, but I know that it could mean forums as well. Forums. Drama that comes up, we lose sight of the fact that we all are the same people who are all out for the same things. We all want to fucking have fun together. You know what I mean? And if you can talk to a person, it's so much easier to do that when you can all get together and do that. And like, yeah, I understand that it sucks for people who can't be there, but then I also understand that every time I go anywhere, it's why aren't you coming to this place? You know what I mean? Like again, it's similar to what we're talking about with the forums of here's a centralized location to come together and celebrate what we are and what you've made. Because you guys have made Kind of Funny, you've made this community. And then it is the fact of Max Landis walking in being like, I've never seen anything like this, and telling me how special it is and having another person understand what this is. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and the amount of people that came up to me at the show or after the show and at the VIP meetings and stuff that had critical feedback.
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Yeah, 100%.
They felt like they could have that conversation with me, and they could, and it was awesome. And that was the best meet and greet we've ever done. So yeah, very happy with it all. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you for allowing us to be where we're at and moving us forward into the future of where Kind of Funny will be. Yeah. And I think that there's been a lot of bumps in the road, but we have turned the ship and is now moving forward in that direction.
100%.
Agreed.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the GameOverGreggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 3 best friends gather on this table, each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindoffunny. You can toss us a few bucks, get a whole bunch of different perks that are getting updated soon on the 19th. I always want to say 17th, but the 19th is when everything's happening. Monday the 19th. That's the siren coming for Andy. It's the fuzz run. If you got no bucks to toss, no big deal. You can head over to youtube.com/kindoffunny. You get all the content there day by day, topic by topic. I feel like if you've hung out for 2 hours listening to this, you know the rigmarole. I don't think anybody like wondered, what's this GameOverGreggy show? Oh, yes. Fascinating. I have no idea what they're talking about anything. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you at E3, and it's been our pleasure to serve you. Thanks for watching the GameOverGreggy show, everybody. Click here to subscribe to the channel, and click here to support us on Patreon. There'll be a whole bunch of changes there soon. Click over here to watch other episodes, and click down here to check out Kind of Funny games. We're taking your feedback to heart. I wear these sunglasses in YouTube Co. I wear the command.